Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds, and welcome to my live stream. Actually, welcome to my book garden / plushy garden. Welcome to the first showing or live stream period of 1,000 Autumns. I'm super excited about it. I'm Rosebud Reads, which I already said. You can tell I'm excited. But yes, so this is a chill stream, which means I will be talking to myself. I will be talking to the book. I will be making side comments. If that's not really your thing, I'm sorry. Maybe stick around, see if it might be. You never know. But yes. Hello, Momar's Rover and Chi-Chi Kiki and Plued Starklord. Hello. Welcome. But yes, we will be doing, and hello, Annika. I wonder why my chat feature isn't changed like Kictor's is. It's weird. I wonder if it'll be back to normal on Kictor's in a little bit. I don't know. That is super weird though. Huh. But yes, welcome to the first stream of book 1 of 1,000 Autumns. And welcome first timer, Plued Starklord. So, I know that Momar's Rover, Chi-Chi Kiki, and Annika, you guys all know that for the first stream of a book, even if it's like book 2 in the series, I like to do a couple things. Hello. Oh yes, I'm also not sponsored by 7 Seas. The only thing I own is my time and the physical copy that I read from. So let's just get that out of the way. But one thing I like to do is either after cons or at the beginning of a book, new book, I will be doing a blind box. I decided to switch to something a little spookier for our Halloween month. So we'll be opening an Emma. There we go. Frostvale Villa. So we'll be doing this, and then I will show some of my con stuff that I managed to pick up this weekend, which is very cool. So, right, new book, new blind box. I think honestly, hello Truffle, how you doing? I think I really am aiming for this one right here. So I hope in one of however many I got, I will end up picking that. And I had an absolutely amazing time at the con, Chi-Chi Kiki. I felt like I was going to a con from years ago. It had that really good feeling. I feel like a lot of times at cons now, the panels aren't very good, and it's a lot of just you go to Artist Alley, check out what's there, and then like once you see that, it's like, well, now what? I mean, like, yes, cosplay, and I love that, and the meetups, but like I feel like some of the initial magic is gone, but this one I just met so many amazing people, and everyone was so friendly. Had like a ton of free food everywhere. I don't know if it was different because it was like based in a hotel, but like it was a super small con, but like it had that special spark to it. So I'm definitely going again next year. The people who created it and ran it, like their hope was to make a family-focused, family-friendly con, and they succeeded. It was great. That's right. Old-time hotel con vibes. It very much was. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you saw some of those. The small cons are the ones worth going to. They really are, even if you just go for a day. Like, I mean, I went all weekend, which I'm really glad I did. But yeah, let me grab my phone. I can show you. I did Jinshi, because my friend did a Mao. And then I did what I called a spicy Mo Xuan Yu, So Wei Wuxian / Mo Xuan Yu, but where I handed out my chili peppers. So let's see. So this was the Jinshi, which was Saturday. My friend and I found this really cool bench that was like a Lulan bed. So we both did some poses that were kind of fun. And then we found, like, since it was a hotel, there were some like fancy items up. So we posed very dramatically. Thank you. Because, you know, Jinshi's so extra. But then for spicy Mo Xuan Yu, this is my favorite picture. That bench got a lot of use. Oh, come on. And then here was one that was kind of just like us chilling, having fun. In this one, you can see the spice belt. They had a tavern, so right down here you can see the spice belt, which I thought was pretty fun. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. There were some really cool people. They had the scavenger hunt that was a lot harder than it should have been, and my friend was very much in Mao mode. And after we literally were going around in circles because we were scanning QR codes, putting in passwords. Thank you. She kept going, and I kind of was starting to get tired. So I was starting to space. So I kind of wandered into what was like the family coloring room where kids were like painting pumpkins, and they had like these glass window cling things. And I just kind of sat down and started doing a frog, and she looked at me and was just like, "You sit here. I'm going to go backtrack and figure it out." I was like, "You do the Mao things you do. I'm going to sit here and make a frog." And I did, and she did. And she created like this whole layout of this goes to this, goes to this, goes to this, goes to this one too. And it's very impressive. So when we actually ran into the person that ran it, they were like, "I'm not 100% sure where you went wrong, but I am so impressed. I'm going to give you a hint. Go to this one and put in this password. You might get where you need to go." So we did that. It kind of ended in send this stuff to like this email. You might win free tickets to a steampunk con, which we tried. So we'll see if we get whoever was the suspect of the murder mystery correct. But yes. And I also love when there's a craft room chichikiki. So I think I'm going to show the cool con stuff I got because I'm very excited. There's some stuff that'll come later because there was a very cool artist. Her name is, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, and my friend got me one of the blind boxes. She saw it and thought of me, and I got Prince Shailian. So she saw it in her local game store. She was like, "I saw this and thought of you." Right? He is such a baby. But here's some of the stuff I picked up. So there was a lot of crafts that people were making, and so like this was one of the things that someone had carved and made. And I was like, "Whoa, fits perfectly with our theme from last book with Li Yu." So of course I had to get it. I guess I'll do the items. Oh, it's actually a fish. It's a fish. Fishy. Yeah, it's a goldfish. It's got 2 big eyes. I know. It's okay. These. Okay, we'll do stuff first, then I'll do what I traded for trinket trades. It was such a cool con. Like, I actually didn't go too overboard. All things considered. I stayed very on budget, but this was my big print, and they're beautiful. So our Hikaru and Yoisuke. Go over there, and I'll try not to set them on fire. And then they actually had a couple of people who were doing Hikaru and Yoshi. Yes. So this one was like, here's your sassy baby, by Caramelia. So here's the card. So I got 2 sassy babies from her. Of course, I got my boys. So that was one commission. A lot of people were doing some commissions while they were waiting, which is also like such an old school con thing too. Which whenever I see someone doing commissions, I usually try to get something because it's such cool work. So that goes in that bag. That was something I traded for. So all this, plus 2 more pieces that I have coming, is made by Hugs Biscus, like hibiscus, but hugs. So we have Faelicy, beautiful boy. Then we have Lanwanji. Right? Then these were some of the pieces she had to show her commissions. It was amazing. She was doing these for like $5. So I was tipping really nicely because I was like, girl, that's worth so much more than $5. Right? The flowers really add to it. And of course, I've been super obsessed with Silent Hill F, so I got Sexy Fox Daddy. I was like, make him daddy. And then she had this really cool Iron Mouse print. I thought it was hilarious that it was with a Labubu. So I had to get that. And then I also have a Juniors plus 1 Ning print. So all 4 Juniors plus 1 Ning. That's coming. And then Yiling Patriarch with Baby Ayun. So those 2 are going to be like coming. She's going to mail them to me. Because she couldn't quite get to them during the con. I was like, oh, totally fine. Like, you were working busy. Like, she had so many commissions and she was getting them done like crazy fast. So I was like, don't even worry about it. But yeah, so those were the commissions I did. And then I ended up picking this up from someone who I've actually gotten some like Donmei pins from. They do a lot of Danmei stuff. Their pins are absolutely gorgeous. I have their stuff on my bag. So Renegade with a 3. So they do also like subtle Danmei things. So Shenqing Chu. And then very, very sad Bingha. Okay. So like lots of good stuff so far. So this artist, I did not get a card for them, but they did a really cool double-sided Summer Hikaru died thing, and they had stickers. So I thought that was pretty cool. So of course I had to pick that up because they're my boys. I ended up picking up this sticker set for a friend because they are trans and had some really cool animals stickers and fish stickers, and I thought they'd like it. Why not? For the same friend, they also want to cosplay Needle. Or Hornet, not Needle. Needle's the weapon. And then I got a whole bunch of stickers. So this was also from the artist that did the commissions, all the blue commissions. She was giving these out if you spent like over a certain amount. These are all by the same artist. I don't have their card, but I thought Senshi Wash Me is pretty funny. Very cursed Mikus. They had a number of very cursed Mikus, which I thought was amazing. So Queso Miko. Very nice. Got that dog in me. Because of course he does. And then my friend really likes Luna, so of course I had to get them one. Then, let me see. There was a stall that was also producing a book, and it said, read a fucking book, and I thought that was amazing. Shocker. And they also had a cool mushroom skull. Right? I love when I can find kind of the cursed or like, wow, that's weird sort of stickers. They make me happy. I also actually ended up going to a maid cafe there. It was super fun. We played Pictionary, and we're guessing anime characters. It was great. So it was just a really great time. But yeah, I hope to go to more cons like that very, very soon. I don't know when or where or how they are, but it was nice. It was very, very nice. Okay, so then I've got what I traded for, and it was really so much fun. So I ended up trading some of my bracelets that I made and also some of the peppers. So I ended up getting, mind if I peel back those layers? Hey. So initially he was dressed like a butler, but we were talking to him, my friend and I, and he was initially going to dress as Shrek, thus the onions, which makes it even better. But it was still pretty funny. He also ended up giving me a box of hockey, which was great. We then went to H Mart after the con, and I ended up winning this, which made me happy because I was like, I still got it. But some of the other cool things that ended up being... Oh yeah, and then this is Hugs Biscuits. This is the QR code for her and stuff because she's amazing. But yeah. So I touched Seagrass because they had a mermaid thing going on, and I got this, which is really cool because it's got like a pearl forming. They had mermaids that would go swim in the little pool, and I bought this from them for my Ariel costume for Halloween for work. Oh yeah, and I bought this from the same artist that did the crane. She also does like AO3 tags and Wattpad, Live Journal. She makes these keychains, so of course I had to buy AO3. And then I won this because there was an AO3 tag 18 plus thing where it was like where the tags get weird. And if you can create the weirdest tags. I won. One of the ones was That Poor Horse, and we all know which Danmei I'm referencing then. But yes. So some other cool things that I ended up getting. I bought some pins from the actual Maid Cafe, which were pretty cool. Right? And what else did I do? Oh yeah. There were a ton of people that were trading for tiny, tiny creatures. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I traded a lot of peppers and things for that. And actually got a decent number of bracelet trades. Oh yeah, here's the frog. Here's my frog. A whole forest of pines. That's amazing. I traded one of my bracelets for like a sampler set of someone who was selling candles. Thank you. But yeah, so these were the bracelets I made. I had to keep at least one. The stars glow in the dark. And then this was one of the ones I traded from someone. And then this one was cute. It says It's very cute. And then this one, I love it. It says demure. This one's pretty funny. Quench ass. This one was one of the ones I made for the day I was Jinshi, and I made all different herbs and spices, so it's jujube seed, and it's got glass. And then this one says respect pronouns, and this was one of the ones I traded for. But yeah, just a big old bag of fun. Oh yeah, and a rubber ducky. Got a rubber ducky. So yeah. So I had so much fun. Quemchas. Right? I was super excited that people were actually like doing bracelets and trading. It made me so happy. It's one of the things that I really strive to do at cons is trinket trade. Some cons are a little weird about it because people get kind of crazy or trade odd things. But this one was good. All right. So now that I've done that, we have our box. Okay. I need to figure out what's shining strangely. Hang on. Let me try to fix some things because it's... I think that's better. It's very shiny. Okay. I'll do it back here so you can actually see it. I think I'm definitely going to make those peppers again. They were relatively easy to make. And people thought it was hilarious that it was spicy. Okay. Let's see what we've got. Kind of an interesting package. It almost feels like paper. Oh. No way! I got the one I wanted! Hey! That means it's going to be a good time for the book today. Nice! It really is super cute. Look at that. Oh, I gotta block my face. So, I like the little accent. Super cute. And then I guess it's supposed to be like a plague doctor. Then it does that. But I might just keep its face because it's super cute. Right? Okay. Where should we put it? I think we're going to put it on this over here. Boop. And it's going to have its mask right next to it. Okay. And then we have our bookmark. Bookmark for 1,000 Autumns. Oops. No. Love it when I press a random button and it starts asking me questions. Okay. Let's see. So. Right? Ooh, beak. Oh, I almost forgot. The fic recommendations. I almost forgot. It's like 50-50 shot whether I'll remember or forget. All right. So, I'm excited to start my new stream, 1,000 Autumns, tonight. But, you don't know yet. Plude Starklord, I do fanfic recommendations for Scum Villain fics and Modao Zushi fics each stream. So they will be under my posts. They go up right before the stream, generally. There's kind of a backlist. It started when I recommended a Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish, Scum Villain, kind of AU take on it. And kind of we just kept it going. But the ones for this week, Schlom, of course, right? But the one for this week for Scum Villain is The Prison of My Arms Is All You Need by Titans Are Us. So it's an intriguing take on Papa Shen Qingchu to sweet baby boy Shen Yuan. It's definitely a toxic relationship, so be careful, especially if you're triggered by Mother Gotham levels of manipulation. It's a great fic, just not a healthy one. And then the link will be there. So the official summary is everyone knows about Peak Lord Shen Qingchu's son. That after a key deviation, the man woke up with a baby resting on his chest. The cultivator weakened but vicious to anyone who tried to remove the child. He came from my flesh, my blood. He's mine. Don't you dare touch what's mine. Shen Qingchu had snarled almost deliriously at Mu Qingfen. The healer fluttered around him and the child, trying to fix the man with serious signs of blood loss, weight loss, bone loss. Otherwise known as the fic where Shenju somehow acquires a son. This is both a good thing and a bad thing. For the MDZS fic recommendation, I picked Worth of a Good Man by Furifuricchin. It's rather interesting one-shot with the idea of what if all the sects, minus Jiang sect, realized what an amazing cultivator Wei Wuxian was and said, I want that. So the link's below. So the summary is, when you shine as brightly as a star, people notice. Everyone wants a worthy, loyal, and strong person by their side. And then I also included kind of the prompt that did it. It's there, so like the person said, I've always had a problem with Wei Wuxian's position and treatment in Yunmeng Jiang. His status is terribly uncertain. Is he a servant, an inner disciple, an outer disciple? Nobody knows. He has no money except what he gets in allowance from JFM. Gets punished according to non-existent rules, goes from brother to pet to servant in 5 seconds flat. It's confusing. He's head disciple, a hell of a powerful one, and we can be sure that he earned that title since Furin would, and probably did, scream favoritism. Now my prompt is this. What if other sects start paying attention at some point and conclude that Wei Wuxian would make an excellent disciple for almost any sect? And surely, if Yumeng Jiang doesn't treat him all that well, he must be gettable. Cue the bidding war with various sects offering Wei Wuxian favorable, clear-cut contracts and or bribes. Marrying him in is an option as well. So this exists in a golden world where there's no sunshot campaign. Wens are moderately good people, and Wei Wuxian is just there, charming. Wang Xian is almost completely absent until the end. Also, I was giggling as I was writing this fic. It's purely self-indulgent fluff. I hope you like it. I don't know if this is exactly what you want, but you'll have a lot of fun. It's a fic for people who love Wei Wuxian. Fair warning, not Jiang friendly, and point of view is all over the place. So, that being said, happy reading. And yes, it is pretty hilarious. It has a lot of point of view shifting, which they do it in a way that's not too confusing, and it's well done. I try to really recommend fics that I enjoy personally and are well written, so I hope you guys like it. Have any of you been reading some of the fics I've recommended, and have you been enjoying? I'm just curious. Like, if not, that's totally cool. Like, life is busy. Like, I get it. I'm just being nosy. Oh, that's gonna fall. Hang on. There we go. Okay. Ooh, yay! I'm excited that you've read some of them. Good. Oh, that makes me happy to hear it. Good. Well, I mean, no rush. Like, it's all good. I put them out there for people to enjoy. As I said, I was just being nosy. Okay, so it is now probably be 34:30 by the time I actually get the book to where it needs to be. So that will be our start time. So like I said in the title description, I am actually going to start with the historical primer in the back so that everyone kind of is on the same page. It's kind of the recommended thing to do for Thousand Autumns. So that's where we're going to start today. All right. Historical primer. Historical period. While not required reading, this section and those after are intended to offer further context for the historical setting of this story and give insights into the many concepts and terms utilized throughout the novel. Their goal is to provide a starting point for learning more about the rich culture from which these stories were written. The following segment is intended to give a brief introduction to the major historical events featured in Thousand Autumns. The Dauphin Fix-It is currently musing me because Wei Wuxian is freaking two kids out because he teases them about their family and gets side-eyed continuously by Lan Wangji. Yeah, it's a fun one. The Jin Dynasty. In 266 CE, at the close of the tumultuous Three Kingdoms era, the Central Plains were finally united under Sima Yan, founder of the Jin Dynasty, also known as Western Jin. Oh, here's where I'm going to drop it. I will try to pronounce things as correctly as I know how, but I am not a native speaker, nor am I fluent in any Asian language or Korean language. Korean is Asian. I'm not fluent in anything that I am reading, but I'm going to do my best. I know, I just had a geography slip up. My bad. Wasn't that great at geography either, but I'm here and I'm going to try my best. Chinese pronunciation scares me. I feel you, Annika. Okay. But when Sima Yan passed away in 290 CE, his son and heir was deemed unfit to rule. Conflict broke out among members of the imperial court who vied for the throne. This became known as the War of the Eight Princes, after the 8 members of the Sima royal family who were the principal players. Uprising of the 5 Barbarians and the 16 Kingdoms period. Over a period of 15 years, the repeated clashes and civil wars greatly weakened the Western Jin dynasty. During this time, most of the royal princes relied on non-Han nomadic minorities to fight for them, in particular Xiang Nu and Xian Bei. The Han lumped them together with other foreign ethnicities like the Jin, Dai, and Qiang, collectively designating them the Hu, sometimes translated as barbarians. Bad habit of pronouncing things as I read, and they do not agree with me. I can't pronounce anything in any language. Sometimes me too, Chichikiki. As the Jin dynasty's control over the minority tribes slipped, instances of rebellion combined with local unrest to usher in the uprising of the 5 barbarians in 304 CE. Although it began as a revolt spearheaded by the Hu, the uprising of the 5 barbarians soon led to the complete collapse of Western Jin as its Han upper class fled south of the Yangtze River. This was the mass southward migration of the Jin referenced in Thousand Autumns. When the old capital of Chang'an fell, the new emperor re-established the seat of government in Jiankang, heralding the start of the Eastern Jin dynasty. At the same time, north of the Yangtze River, the Dai, Qiang, Xiang Nu, and Ji each established their own dynastic kingdoms. Thus began a time of great upheaval known as the 16 Kingdoms period. During the turmoil of the 16 Kingdoms, regimes formed and collapsed in the blink of an eye as they warred with each other and the Eastern Jin. The strife finally abated when the Northern Wei dynasty, conquered the other northern kingdoms in 439 CE and unified the lands north of the Yangtze. Meanwhile, in the south, Liu Yu usurped the emperor of the Eastern Jin dynasty and founded the Liu Song dynasty. This marked the beginning of the Northern-Southern dynasties period during which Thousand Autumns is set. All right, one sec. Northern-Southern dynasties. For a period of almost 90 years, Northern Wei held strong. The first half of the reign was focused on expansion, but when Tuoba Hong rose to power in 471 CE, he championed the dominance of Buddhism and Han culture, going so far as to ban Xianbei clothing from the court and assigning one-character family names to Xianbei nobility. Tuoba Hong himself changed his family name to Yuan. South of the Yangtze, the regime changed hands 3 times, from Lusong to southern Qi to Liang, before the Chen dynasty that ruled during Thousand Autumns was finally established in 557 CE. In the north, Northern Wei held strong for almost 90 years. While the first half of their reign was focused on expansion, when Tuobo Hong rose to power in 471 CE, he championed the dominance of Buddhism and Han culture. Wait, we just read that. Culture, going so far as to ban Xianbei clothing from the court and assigning one-character family names to Xianbei nobility. I guess it was so important they mentioned it twice. A rift slowly developed in Northern Wei between the increasingly Han acculturated aristocracy and their own armies who adhered more to the traditional nomadic lifestyle. A series of rebellions escalated into an all-out revolt, and by 535 CE, the kingdom had split in half. Western Wei was ruled by Yuan Tai, and Eastern Wei was Gao Huan. I sense a mall clothing montage coming. Right? In the space of a generation, they would depose the last of the old leadership and become the kingdoms of Northern Shao and Northern Qi. In the Zhao dynasty to the west, rule favored the Han acculturated nobles, while in the Qi dynasty to the east, the traditional tribes came into power. Qi's military superiority over both Zhao and Chen began to diminish due to corruption and incompetence in the ruling class, and particularly that of the emperor's grandson, Gao Wei. After a politically turbulent period of regency in Shao, Yuan Yang took power in 572 CE and made a point of bolstering state administration and military affairs. By 575 CE, where Thousand Autumns begins, a new maelstrom was already brewing. All right, so the 3 schools of thought. This section hopes to provide some basic context as to the major schools of thought that inform the background of Thousand Autumns, so that readers may explore the topic in more depth on their own. Note that with their long period of coexistence, the schools have all influenced each other deeply, and their ideals have become rooted in Chinese culture itself, even among non-practicers. Right? I also would pay money for a flip book featuring Shen Qiao and Yan Wuxi, with some examples of clothing from the time. I want more stuff from Thousand Autumns because there really isn't a lot. All right, so we start with Taoism. Taoism revolves around the concept of Tao, or ways. The courses things follow as they undergo change. Though there are many Tao a human can choose from, there is one primordial great Tao, the source of the universe and origin of all things, the void of infinite potential. Of the course of all things in the universe follow. Let me start that over. The course all things in the universe follow is the heavenly Tao, the natural order. According to Taoist principles, by imposing constraints and artifice, humanity strays from the primordial Tao and stagnates. In particular, the rigid social roles enforced by society are seen as unnatural and an example of degradation. For humans to flourish, they must revert themselves, disengaging from these tendencies in order to return to the primordial Tao. This is something known as becoming one with heaven. The method of disengaging is called Wu Wei, sometimes translated as inaction or non-interference. Expanding on this idea, Taoism has the concept of Xian Tian, early heaven, and Huan Tian, Hua Tian, Ho Yu Tian, Ho Yu Tian, Ho Yu Tian, later heaven. The prenatal Xian Tian state is closer to the primordial Tao and thus is both purer than and superior to the postnatal Hao Tian. I think I'm going to go with Hao Tian state. The Hao Tian state is created at birth along with the conscious mind that thinks and perceives, and which in turn suppresses the primordial mind. This is what gives rise to sources of suffering, anger, worry, doubt, desire, and fatigue. The goal of Wu Wei is to reverse the changes brought on by Huo Tiao and return to the primordial state of Xian Tian. To conflict with nature is to stray from it, and to intervene in the natural order, as society does, is to perpetuate degradation. Disengaging from all of these influences requires rejecting social conventions and detaching from the mundane world altogether. So seclusion and asceticism are common practices. Emptying oneself of all emotion and freeing oneself from all artifice is the only way to achieve union with heaven and surpass life and death itself. When it came to politics, Taoism was often seen as justification for small, laissez-faire governments. In fact, laissez-faire is one of the possible translations of Wu Wei, supporting low taxes and low intervention. The anti-authority implications of its philosophies were not lost on its followers nor on its rulers. As a result, it wasn't uncommon for Taoism to struggle to find its footing politically, despite its cultural pervasiveness. Man, oh man, am I getting a workout with sounding out things tonight. Buddhism. Founded by Gautama Buddha in India, Buddhism only arrived in China during the Han Dynasty, well after Confucianism and Taoism. Despite early pushback and social friction, its parallels with Taoism eventually helped it gain widespread influence. Buddhism is rooted in the concept of reincarnation, karma, and Maya, the illusion of existence. Attachment to Maya keeps living beings rooted in the cycle of reincarnation, where they are beholden to the principle of karma that determines their future rebirths. Buddha claims that this eternal cycle is the root of all suffering, and that the only escape is through achieving nirvana, or enlightenment. To achieve enlightenment is to fully accept that all things within existence are false. It then follows that any emotions, attachments, or thoughts that one develops while interacting with and perceiving the world are equally false. This philosophy extends to the attitude towards karma. The ideal Buddhist does good deeds and kind acts without any expectation of reward or satisfaction, material or otherwise. Despite these selfless ideals, it also wasn't uncommon to see Buddhist temples amass land, authority, and wealth through donations, worship, and the offerings of those seeking better futures or rebirths. Combined with the men who'd leave their homes to join these temples as monks, this sometimes made the relationship between Buddhism and rulers a tricky, precautious one. Confucianism. Unlike Buddhism and Taoism, Confucianism focuses on the moral betterment of the individual as the foundation for the ideal society. The founder, Confucius, envisioned a rigidly hierarchical system wherein the lower ranks have the moral duty to obey the higher ranks, and those in superior positions likewise have the moral responsibility to care for their subordinates. This social contract is applied to everything from the family unit to the nation itself. The emperor is the father to his people, and they in turn must show him absolute obedience. To foster such a society, Confucians extol the five constant virtues: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and integrity. Paragons who embodied all five virtues are called Junzi, sometimes translated as gentlemen or noblemen, while their direct opposites are Xiao Ren, literally petty people. Xiao Ren. Yeah, Xiao Ren. Literally petty people and sometimes translated as scoundrels. Throughout most of history, mainstream Confucians believed in the goodness inherent in humanity, that people can better themselves through education and learning from their superiors. The ideal ruler must be the ultimate Junzi himself and lead by example, thereby uplifting all of society. In the same vein, Confucius expected officials to be virtuous parental figures held to the highest moral standard, much higher than ordinary citizens. Due to its emphasis on social order, Confucianism was easily the most influential and politically favored of the three schools throughout history. Its social contract was so absolute that even dynastic takeovers had to be performed in a way that did not break it. Usurpers who acted out otherwise ran the risk of being seen as illegitimate in the eyes of the people. Famously, the old emperor had to offer the new emperor his position multiple times, with the new ruler declining 3 times. I put up 2, it's actually 3, before finally accepting. All right, we've got a bonus one. Still influential in China today. Yes, it is. Bonus, legalism. Though not regarded as one of the big three, and although it received far less overt support, legalism was enormously influential for one key reason. It served as the foundation for the entire Chinese government tradition for 2,000 years, regardless of dynasty. Unlike the three schools, which are each in pursuit of an ideal, legalism is entirely utilitarian and concerned only with efficacy. This is reflected in its Chinese name, the House of Methods. Core to its beliefs is the idea that human nature is selfish and evil, and so people must be motivated through reward and punishment. Morality is inconsequential. The ends justify the means, and the most effective administration must minimize corruption by restricting its subordinate administrators as much as possible. It was with these tenets that the first united Chinese empire, the Qin dynasty, dismantled the existing feudalist system and established in its place a centralized government overseen by the emperor. After the Qin's collapse, brought about in part due to how harsh a fully legalist regime was on its people, the succeeding Han dynasty under Emperor Wu of Han made sure to suppress legalism as a philosophy. However, they inherited the entire legalist government structure mostly unchanged, though their policies were softened by a push towards Confucianism. This trend of furtively repackaging legalist tendencies within the leading schools of thought, usually Confucianism, continued almost uninterrupted for this period of 2,000 years, and rulers continued to study legalist texts like the Han Faelicy. All right, we're almost done. Other important concepts: Taoist cultivation, the Zhu-Yang strategy, and the power of 5. In real life, the scholar Tao Hongjing compiled the famous 3-volume Concealed Instructions for the Ascent to Perfection, translated in the novel as Deng Shen Concealed Instructions. For 1,000 Autumns, Meng Xi Shi invented an extra associated manual called The Strategy of Vermilion Yang, translated in the novel to Zhu-Yang Strategy, after the real-life monastery of Vermilion Yang on Mount Mao, where Tang Hongjing secluded himself. The Zhu-Yang strategy draws heavily from classical concepts of Taoist cultivation and pulls together many ideas from Chinese culture. Primarily, they are based on the Wu Qi Chao Yuan, roughly returning the 5 Qi to the origin. The first lines of each of the Zhu-Yang strategies' 5 volumes correspond exactly to the Wu Qi Chao Yuan 5 principles. Number 1, the heart conceals the mind. Hu Tian begets the conscious mind, while Xian Tian begets propriety. Once emptied of sorrow, the mind is settled, and the fire from the crimson emperor of the south returns to the origin. Number 2. The liver conceals the soul. Huo Tian begets the lost soul, while Xian Tian begets the benevolence. Once emptied of joy, the soul is settled, and the wood from the azure emperor of the east returns to the origin. Number 3. The pancreas conceals the thought. Huo Tian begets the deluded thought, while Xian Tian begets integrity. Once emptied of desire, the thought is settled, and the earth from the yellow emperor of the center returns to the origin. Number 4. The lungs conceal the anima. And that's anima, not enema. It's a very big difference. Huo Tian begets the corrupted anima, where Xian Tian begets righteousness. Once emptied of rage, the anima is settled, and the metal from the white emperor of the west returns to the origin. Number 5. The kidneys conceal the essence. Huo Tian begets the clouded essence, while Xian Tian begets wisdom. Once emptied of cheer, the will is settled, and the water from the black emperor of the north returns to the origin. The traditional Chinese worldview includes the 5 phases, the deities of the 5 regions, also known as the 5 emperors, the 5 constant virtues, the 5 spirits, and the 5 major internal organs. The Wu Qiao Yuan links all these ideas together, unifying them into a doctrine that explains how one can achieve immortal status or godhood. For those who are interested, we provide here a brief introduction to several of these concepts in hopes that the readers can further appreciate the world of Thousand Autumns. So it's almost done. It really is almost done. The 5 phases. The Wu Xing, sometimes translated as 5 agents or 5 elements, are the cornerstones of Taoist philosophy. Unlike the 4 elements proposed by Aristotle, the 5 phases, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, are seen as dynamic, interdependent forces. Each phase can give rise to another or suppress another. As Taoism dictates that all entities are bound by the natural order, the 5 phases can be seen as an overarching rule set that governs all aspects of nature. Most things are regarded as corresponding to a certain phase, including but not limited to planets, seasons, cardinal directions, organs, colors, and types of qi. 5 emperors, 5 regions, 5 colors. In Taoism, the Wu Feng Sheng Dai, or high emperors of the 5 regions, are the 5-fold manifestations of the superior emperor of heaven, or simply heaven. As they correspond to the 5 phases, each emperor has an associated cardinal direction, as well as a color that informs his namesake. 5 spirits, 5 organs. The traditional Chinese conception of the spirit divides it into 5 separate aspects: mind, soul, thought, anima, and will. These classifications may not be a perfect match with their Western definitions. For example, the will, which arises from the essence, is responsible for memory as well as discernment and judgment. A strong will is generally associated with clear-mindedness. In another example, the anima governs instincts, impulses, and reflex reactions, and is said to dissipate on death, unlike the soul. Each of the 5 aspects is said to reside in one of the 5 major internal organs: heart, liver, pancreas, which includes the spleen, lungs, and kidneys, which in turn also correspond to the 5 phases. The Wu Qing Qiao Yuan claims that part of the ascending to immortality is learning how to return the true qi of each aspect to one's danshan, or origin. So we know a little bit about danshans from things like Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. So a lot of them call their danshan where their golden core is held. That's not in this book, but that's little outside knowledge. The four occupations. The classification of citizens as Shi, eventually gentry scholars, Nong, farmers, Gong, artisans, and Shang, merchants, was a cornerstone of ancient Chinese social hierarchy, strongly associated with both Confucianism and legalism. As the upper class and decision makers, the Shi naturally ranked the highest, followed by the peasant farmers, who were valued as the backbone of the nation. Merchant businessmen were seen as agents of exploitation who profited from price fluctuations, so they were placed lowest. In practice, these hierarchical rankings shaped cultural attitudes more than they dictated political clout. Even though merchants were looked down upon, the much needed cash flow they provided made them far more influential than the artisan and farmer classes. This created a curious situation. Merchants were both sought after and derided by the Shi in charge of governance. In later dynasties, some merchants went so far as to purchase positions within the imperial court, making them honorary Shi and granting them legal protections. Though the Shi remained firmly at the top of the social hierarchy, regardless of the period, the membership of the class changed over time. Originally, the Shi were warrior aristocrats, not unlike Western knights, but they became obsolete when the Warring States period mobilized the common folk for warfare. Hello, Esper Lady. With the rise of philosophy, the warriors slowly gave way to scholars. Later, during the harsh legalist regime of the Qin dynasty, the emperor began assigning administrative responsibilities to learned scholars who showed promise and merit. To weaken the authority of the noble class, he dismantled the existing feudalist system in favor of a centralized bureaucracy of dedicated officials. Though the Qin's system of governance persisted well after the dynasty's collapse, the importance of family lines meant that prominent scholar officials effectively became the new aristocracy. Their wealth and influence almost always guaranteed their descendants the resources to land their own positions within the imperial court. Thousand Autumns includes examples of powerful clans like the Su and the Shi. One talented scholar could elevate their entire family for generations to come. It wasn't until the Tang dynasty that true merit-based system was introduced, the civil service exams, that would give capable commoners the chance to find their place in governance. And yes, we are learning, Esper Lady. You actually arrived right as we finished the historical primer, which you might want to go back and listen to after this. Because it tells you more about the period of time and what, like, Confucianism, Taoism, imperialism, Buddhism, like what they meant for these time periods in particular, and like what was going on with the different warring nations, places, people. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted because like the light I chose for Thousand Autumns really washes me out. It kind of makes me like look almost like Frankenstein-y, so it's perfect for this, for the Halloween months, but I'm like, man, I'm pale. All right. Nice big drink, then we'll start. All right. Now that we have read the historical primer, we get to start. Chapter 1. After the Duel. Banbu Peak. Half-Step Peak. As the name implied, the summit boasted only a few square inches on which to stand. A half-step forward led to a majestic cliff, thousands of meters tall. Above, jagged stones jutted skyward, and bowed trees crept forth. Below, great swaths of mist swirled, and haunting wails echoed throughout. It was a treacherous, craggy place where heaven and earth did not meet. Facing this cliff loomed another mountain summit called Yinghuai Peak. It was no less high nor steep than Banbui. Its walls were also soared for thousands of meters, sheer as if pared by a knife. There seemed no likely foothold, and even its scant greenery was ungrounded in soil, its roots twining about the rocks. The sight was enough to make anyone shudder and regret their attempt to scale that peak. And so the name Yinghuai Peak was born, certain regret peak. Between these two peaks yawned a natural chasm. Seen from above, a sea of clouds drifted lazily, concealing the phantoms of its depths, and one could faintly hear the vicious roar of unceasing rapids. The common woodcutters and hunters dared not climb there. Even Xiantian experts who stood there would find that a sigh. Okay, hang on. Would stirred within their hearts, lamenting the insignificance of humans before nature. So I know we just read that whole big thing, but they have this aside about Xiantian experts, so powerful martial artists who've achieved the Xiantian or early heaven state through extensive training and cultivation. They say see the entry on Taoism in the glossary. However, below the mist at the foot of the cliff, between the river waters and mountain walls, wound a stone path paved with uneven rubble. It was long, narrow, and rugged, yet at this moment 2 men walked upon it, one in front and the other behind. As the river raged and galloped, waves churned up from time to time and broke against the wet, slippery rocks. If one lacked just a little prudence while walking, they'd be soaked through by the spray even without falling into the waters. But if they tried to lean away instead, they'd meet the sheer rock face and its sharp, jutting stones. In short, the path was a dilemma liable to leave anyone in a woeful state. And yet, these 2 men seemed to stroll leisurely along as though through a courtyard, their movements confident and graceful. I heard that 20 years ago, Suandu Mountain's perfected Master Chi defeated the Gokturk's #1 martial artist, Hulugu, right here on Banbui Peak. And then he forced him to swear an oath to stay out of the Central Plains for the next 20 years. A pity this disciple was still too young to watch that duel. The battle must have been incomparably splendid. The young man who spoke walked behind the other. Their pace was neither slow nor quick, yet he always kept 3 steps behind. The man in front sauntered in small steps, his demeanor as languid as if he truly trod on level ground. The steps of the young man behind him stretched a little longer. Taken alone, the young man in back also bore an immortal's weightless grace, but seen together it was easy to find the subtle differences between the two. Yan Wuxi gave a derisive laugh. Chief Fingge was indeed worthy of being called #1 in all the world. Hulagu was a foreign barbarian. He overestimated himself and invited humiliation because of it. He only had himself to blame. Yet for the sake of upholding a Taoist sect's pure and lofty image, Qi Fingui refused to kill him and chose instead to establish a 20-year covenant. Apart from sowing the seeds of trouble for Xuandu Mountain's future, what benefits did he receive? Yu Shengyuan was curious. Shizun, was Hulagu really that great of a martial artist? If I were to fight him now, I would have no guarantee of victory. He's really that strong? Yu Shengyuan was aghast. Of course he understood just how profound his own master's martial arts were. Hulagu's abilities must have been just as terrifying if Yan Wuxi gave him such an appraisal. Oh, no worries. Have a good one, K-Moment. Hang on. Perhaps he'd even rank among the top 3 in the world. Yan Wushi's tone was indifferent. Why else would I say that Qi Fenggui left endless troubles for his own disciples and future generations? 20 years ago, Hulagu might have been slightly inferior to Qi Fenggui, but in 20 years such a gap can be closed. And now Qi Fenggui is dead. Suandu Mountain will never find a second Qi Fenggui. Yu Xingyuan released a soft breath. Yes, perfected Master Qi passed away 5 years ago. Who is the current sect leader of Xuandu Mountain? A disciple of Qi Fenggui's named Shen Qiao. Yan Wuxi had little reaction to the name. He'd met Qi Fenggui only once, and that was 25 years ago. Back then, Shen Qiao had only just been accepted as one of Qi Fenggui's personal disciples. There was no doubt that Xuandu Mountain was called the world's #1 Taoist sect. But in the opinion of Yan Wuxi, who had just emerged from 10 years of seclusion, no one on Xuandu Mountain was worthy of standing as his opponent other than Qi Fenggui. Unfortunately, Qi Fenggui was dead. Yu Shengyuan saw his master's lack of interest and added, I heard that Hulagu's disciple Kun Yi, the current #1 martial artist of the Guk Turks and wise king of the left, is here today at the summit of Bamboo Peak to challenge Shen Qiao. He says that he wants to clear the shame from Hulagu's loss. Does Shizun wish to go and watch? Yan Wuxi answered neither yes nor no. In the 10 or so years I spent in seclusion, what other major events occurred, apart from Qi Fenggui's death? He asked instead. Yu Xingyuan thought for a moment. Shortly after you entered seclusion, the new emperor of Qi, Gao Wei, ascended to the throne. But he is a man of lustful indulgence and boundless extravagance, so Qi's strength has plummeted since then. There are rumors that Yunwei Yong, the emperor of Shao, is plotting to attack Qi. Shao will probably annex the north soon. Hang on, I just have to blow my nose real quick. Man, these names are hitting hard tonight. Over these last 10 years, because of Qi Fenggui's death, the ranking of the world's top 10 martial artists has also changed. Yi Pichen of Chunyang Monastery on Qingchang Mountain, Buddhist master Shu Ting of Shao, and Ruyan Qi Huai of Lin Xuan Academy are recognized as the top 3 in the world, and they represent exactly the 3 schools of Taoism, Buddhism, and Confucianism. But some also say that Kosa sage of the Tu Yu Hun should be ranked among the top 3. There's also Hulagu. If he's grown stronger over all these years, it's possible he could compete for the #1 position the next time he enters the Central Plains. After this speech, Yu Shengyuan saw that his master was continuing along their path, and he couldn't help but add, Shizun, today's duel between Kun Yi and Shen Qiao will surely be another rare and exciting battle. Shen Qiao is a recluse, and he's fought even less since he took over leadership of Xuandu Violet's palace. He only ranks in the top 10 on account of his master Qi Fenggui's prestige reputation. If Shizun wishes to see the true extent of Xuandu Mountain's strength, today's battle is not to be missed. I imagine the summit of Yinghuai Peak is already packed full with martial experts who've come to watch. Do you think I came here today to watch the battle? Yan Wuxi finally paused at his steps. Yu Shengyuan was a bit flustered. Then, what does Shizun mean to do? He'd entered discipleship beneath Yan Wuxi at only 7 years old. Then, 3 years later, Yan Wuxi had lost a battle to the Grandmaster of the demonic sects, Chu Yu Wang. Injured, Yan Wuxi entered seclusion, a seclusion that lasted a decade. During that time, Yu Shengyuan continued his training according to Yan Wuxi's instructions, and also traveled to many places. His progress put him far beyond where he'd been before. He'd entered the ranks of first-class martial artists within the Jianghu long ago. But inevitably, because he hadn't seen his master in 10 years, there was a sense of estrangement and unfamiliarity between them. Moreover, Yan Wuxi's martial expertise had only grown more profound while he was away, so the awe within Yu Shengyan's heart had grown deeper along with it. So much so that the usual bold and untrammeled behavior that the others saw from him became restrained and tentative in his Shizun's company. So, the Jianghu literally means rivers and lakes. The Jianghu Society describes the greater underground society of martial artists that span the setting. Its members self-govern and settle issues among themselves based on the tenets of strength and honor, though this may not stop them from exerting influence over conventional society as well. Yan Wuxi clasped his hands behind his back. I've already seen the battle between Qi Fenggui and Hulugu, he said, tone indifferent. Shen Xiao and Kun Yi are their disciples, and they are still young. No matter how strong they are, they can't suppress the great spectacle of that year's Qi-Hu match. I brought you here because of the fast-flowing waters and the treacherous terrain, which connects to the energies of the sky and the spirits of the earth. This makes it most suitable for training and enlightenment. While I was in seclusion, I had no time to look after you, but now that I've left, I cannot leave you to loiter and stagnate at your current level of progress. Before you comprehend the 5th stage of the Fenglin scriptures, you shall stay here. Yu Shengyan felt suddenly a bit wounded. Though he had spent these past 10 years traveling here and there, he hadn't dared to neglect his training, not even for a day. Now he was only in his early 20s, but he had already attained the Fenglin scriptures 4th stage. In the Jianghu, he was considered one of the few martial experts of the younger generation, so he'd been quite satisfied, but now it seemed that his Shizun saw no merit in any of this. As if sensing his disciple's emotions, the corner of Yan Wuxi's mouth tugged up in a mocking smile. When I was your age, I had already broken through the 6th stage. What do you have to be proud of? Instead of comparing yourself to those small fry, why not compare yourself to me? Although the hair at Yan Wuxi's temple was peppered with white, it didn't detract from his charm. In fact, that shadow of a smile made it even harder for anyone to avert their eyes from his handsome face. I mean, I feel you, man. Hint of a silver wisp. Maybe that's why I've got a little silver now. I'm just channeling my Yan Wuxi. His white robe, long and loose, flapped and rustled in the blustering wind, but he remained as stalwart and unmoving as ever. He simply stood there with his hands behind his back, but radiating from him was an invisible aura of all-encompassing disdain, both intimidating and crushing. I feel ya, Plude. As Yu Shengyan stood opposite him, a suffocating pressure engulfed him from the front, forcing him 2 steps back. Shizun is a heavenly talent. How can this disciple dare to compare himself with you? He said, reverent and fearful. Greet me with the most powerful attack you can think of. I want to see how far you have progressed over the years. Yu Shengyan had not been tested in martial arts since he'd left seclusion. The order left him a little hesitant, although somewhat eager as well. But when he saw the flash of impatience on Yan Wushi's face, his single trace of hesitation vanished. Then, please forgive this disciple's rudeness. As the words fell from his lips, his body moved as he willed it, and his sleeves rose. Moving too swiftly to be seen, he was already in front of Yan Wushi. Yu Shengyan raised an arm, his palms striking forth. To a bystander, it would appear that there was no force behind this movement. It looked as gentle as if he was plucking flowers on a spring day or whisking away dust on an autumn night, airy and light, without a wisp of firepower. Only those in the thick of things would feel that palm's might. In a meter-wide radius around him, the grass and trees bowed, the river waters reversed, waves swelled, and foam leapt as massive air currents erupted, and all this power surged towards Yan Wushi. There were currents capable of suspending rivers and overturning seas. Yet when they reached Yan Wushi, they seemed to be blocked by an invisible barrier. The hurtling current split into two and veered off to either side. He still stood in the same spot as before, completely unmoved. Only when Yu Shenyan's palm was right before his eyes did he indifferently extend a single finger. The palm strikes, right? Just one finger and no more. And with just this finger, Yu Shengyan's attack was frozen in midair. Yu Shengyan felt the winds from his palm strike suddenly reverse and roar towards him in a counter current many times more powerful than his own. Yan Wushi's finger technique. I hate palm strikes almost as much as I hate roundhouse kicks. Sounds like a story there, Truffle. Alarmed, he used the current's momentum and hastily retreated. With this one retreat, he reeled back 10 steps. Only after he'd found his footing upon a rock did he finally speak, still a bit shocked and shaky. This disciple thanks Shizun for his mercy. Can't say I have any personal experience with it either. It's looks over actual utility. Fair enough. Yu Shengyan had been quite confident when he had used his palm strike. Few people in all the Jianghu could withstand it. And yet, with just one finger, Yan Wushi forced him to withdraw his palm to protect himself. Fortunately, his Shizun was merely testing his progress and hadn't pressed his advantage. If it had been an enemy... Yu Shengyan broke out into a cold sweat at the thought. He couldn't help it. He didn't dare to be so self-assured anymore. A roundhouse kick is not going to do much in a fight beyond intimidation. Fair enough, Truffle. Yan Wushi had achieved his goal. Now that he'd given Yu Shengyan a wake-up call, he didn't bother saying much more. Don't waste your superb talents. In a few days, I will travel to the Gokturk Khaganate. Once you've mastered the 5th stage here, if you have nothing to do, go find yourself a Shixiang. Don't wander about traveling too much. So a Shixian is literally a senior martial brother, used by the speaker to respectfully address a male senior with whom they share the same master or sect. So it could knock you off balance. Better to go for the knees or stick to punches. Yeah. Or the eyes. I mean, not in a, certified fight, but, if you're really going at it, if nothing else, if you go for the eyes, it'll at least give you time to get away. Not the most, proper fighting etiquette, but if you're in a situation That's fair. I know getting punched in the nose or getting a bloody nose hurts like a bitch, so I could see that. Yes, Yu Shengyan said reverently. The scenery here is sculpted by nature and is seldom visited, said Yan Wuxi. I wish to take a tour around, so you need not. Before he could finish, a series of noises came from a short distance overhead. The two of them followed the sound and looked up to see a man plummeting down as if he'd fallen from high above. He hurtled through layer after layer of branches before finally crashing to a stop at the bottom of the cliff. Even Yu Shengyan had to gasp at the muffled thump of his landing. Surely even a Tian expert would be hard-pressed to survive a fall from a mountain peak that high. What was more, this man clearly wouldn't have fallen off the cliff for no reason. He must have been seriously injured even before the fall. Shizun? Yu Shengyan looked to Yan Wuxi for instructions. Go over and take a look, he said. Could also trigger a flinch reflex, and if you manage to land the punch, broken nose would distract the opponent. Yes, it does! I can tell you that. Or get them to stop if they're being... Anyway, moving on. The man's Taoist robes were slashed through in many places, probably because it tore against the branches and rock face during his fall. His flesh was a mosaic of overlapping bloodstains and fresh wounds, making it hard to even discern his appearance. He had lost consciousness already, unable to keep hold of the sword in his hand. When he hit the ground, the sword followed suit and landed nearby. No worries, Truffle. It's good information to know. I don't mind. It looks like Truffle doesn't mind either. It's good information to know, especially in this day and age. Unfortunately. His flesh was a mosaic of overlapping bloodstains and fresh wounds, making it hard to even discern his appearance. Of course. He had lost consciousness already, unable to keep hold of the sword in his hand. When he'd hit the ground, the sword followed suit and had landed nearby. The bones all over his body have probably been shattered. Yu Shengyan frowned and inspected him for a while, clicking his tongue in sympathy. Then he went to check his pulse. There he felt what felt like a glimmer of life. Was just distracted listening about the guy getting Disney villained off the side of the mountain. Yeah, you'll be able to see it in just a moment. But even if you could save a man in this state, he would probably be better off dead. Yu Shengyan was from a demonic sect, after all. He might have been young, but his kindness was limited. So even though he had a pill of great revival on hand, he had no intention of giving it to this injured man. It was just... Shizun, today is the date of the duel between Shen Qiao and Kunyi. This man fell down from above where the duel is being held. Could he be... Yan Wuxi walked over. Instead of looking at the man, he picked up the sword. The blade was as cold as autumn water and wholly undamaged. As it reflected the river and the mist, subtle ripples seemed to dance across its surface. Near the hilt were four small characters carved there in seal script. Yu Shengyan came over to take a look. The Shen He Tong Bei sword. It's the sword of Xuandu Violet Palace's sect leader. This man really is Shen Qiao. He looked back in disbelief at the grievously injured man, so close to death. Shen Qiao. Qi Fenggui's abilities were the best in the world. Shen Xiao was his personal disciple, and he rose to lead Xuandu Mountain. How could he lose so completely? Yu Shengyan squatted in front of Shen Xiao and frowned. Could Kun Yi's martial arts have grown to suppress even his master, Hulugus? If any other person from Xuandu Mountain had fallen, Yan Wuxi wouldn't even give them a second glance. But Shen Xiao, the sect leader, was a special case. So his sword, the term Shen He Tong Bei, means the mountains and rivers too are grieving, and was used as a lamentation of tragedy. That's a rough sword name. But yeah. There's our peacock just chilling looking at the sword with this silver fox stripe. Right? He tossed the sword Shen He Tong Bei to Yu Shengyan, then looked at Shen Xiao's unrecognizable countenance for another moment. Finally, an enigmatic smile crept across Yan Wushi's face. First, take out the pill of great revival and give it to him. Yeah, Yan Wuxi is more interested in the sword than Shen Xiao. Of course he is. He doesn't give a crap about anybody. Chapter number 2, Blind Man. Of course, Yan Wuxi would never deign to carry some grievously injured dying man on his own back, even if that person was the sect leader of Xuandu Mountain. Bearing such burdens was what disciples were for. Therefore, the task fell to Yu Shengyan. Huan Yu sect had a spare villa in Funing Country, which was near Banbui Peak. Since nearly every bone in Shen Xiao's body was shattered, it was no simple affair for Yu Shengyan to carry him on his back. He also had to be extra cautious of his strength to avoid further aggravating Shen Xiao's injuries. Even though Yu Shengyan's footing and Qinggong were first-rate, it still took him almost an hour to arrive at the villa. So Qinggong is literally lightness skill, a real-life training discipline in wuxia that feats of Qinggong are often highly exaggerated, allowing practitioners to glide through the air, run straight up walls, walk on water, jump through trees, or travel dozens of steps in an instant. Yan Wuxi had gone on ahead of him. At this moment, he was already languidly sipping tea. Shizun, do you really want to save Shen Xiao? After making arrangements for the man, Yu Shengyan came over to report. You don't think I should? Yan Wuxi asked in return. 9/10 of his tendons and meridians have snapped. So the meridians are like blood circulates via the bloodstream. Qi is believed to circulate via meridians. The original Chinese word is a general term for the circulatory system of the body. So, poor guy's training gets interrupted and now he has to play nurse. Right? Finders keepers. The poor kid definitely has a short end of the stick. Yep. He lost his great revival pill. Has to carry this dying guy. Yep. His bones are shattered in multiple places. A small portion of his internal breathing may remain, but even if we can save him, it'll be hard for him to recover his martial arts. Not to mention that he cracked open the back of his head when he landed, so he might even wake up an idiot. Plus, he has the scariest master ever. So, his internal breathing refers to an advanced state of breathing martial artists can achieve, a fundamental component of internal cultivation, detailed further in the glossary entry on internal cultivation. Yan Wuxi gave a small, cold smile. Chi Fenggui's disciple, the head of Xuandu Mountain. He stood at the summit of the Taoist discipline, commanding the land in boundless glory. Yet with one defeat, he's been rendered less than an invalid. Even if he returns to Xuandu Mountain, he can no longer be sect leader. Once he awakens and understands his situation, I wonder how he will feel. Yu Shengyan sighed. That's true. Even ordinary people wouldn't be able to accept such a nosedive, let alone someone beloved by the heavens like Shen Xiao. The higher you stand, the harder you fall. Then he became doubtful. But then again, Shen Xiao is Qi Fenggui's disciple, and he was capable enough to ascend the ranks at Zuandu Mountain and stand among the world's top 10, so his skills must have been extraordinary. Even if Kun Yi did defeat him, how could it have been a defeat this crushing? Could Kun Yi's martial prowess be even greater than Hulagu's was 20 years ago? Yan Wuxi smiled once more. When Shen Xiao wakes up, if he hasn't turned into an idiot, you can ask him. Yu Shengyan had noticed that his Shizun's mood seemed to have improved and his smiles grown more frequent since they'd picked up Shen Xiao. But he was under no illusion that Shizun was fond of Shen Xiao. After all, Yan Wuxi had barely even given Shen Xiao a second look when they'd first found him. By saving Shen Xiao, does Shizun wish to put Xuandu Mountain in our debt? Yu Shengyan asked tentatively. Yan Wuxi was in high spirits. If he had died in defeat, all his troubles would have died with him. But now, when he wakes up and realizes that he is not only alive, but he's also lost everything he once had, grievously injured, his strength destroyed, and martial arts no more, how will he feel then? The greater one's prestige and authority, the less they can withstand such a blow. His heart and mind will certainly break. And when they do, I will take him under my wing. I'll gradually train the once sanctimonious and tender-hearted sect leader of Xuandu Mountain into a disciple of the demonic discipline. In the eyes of the world, he will become someone completely immoral. Wouldn't that be terribly interesting? This kid is all confused why his world's scariest master is helping this random guy, and his answer boils down to, I want to see what he do. Yeah, and basically also, like, I want to crush his spirit and then watch the world burn. He's one of those people is like, yeah, basically like, oh, I found a new toy, along with a little bit of a Joker moment right now. I don't know if we're right there at that point, Blued, but I mean, pretty privilege is a thing, so maybe a little bit. I think mostly it's more he wants to, like, as you said, he wants to watch him break. Kind of watch the world burn aspect right here, I feel. His words left Yu Shengyan dumbfounded. What if he does wake up an idiot? Then bury him alive. Anywhere will do, Yan Wuxi replied, flippant. Yu Shengyan had always known that Shizun was capricious. You know what I'm saying. And the kind of man who did as he pleased. But he had little chance these past years to experience firsthand what he'd solely heard from the mouths of others. Only now, witnessing it, did he realize how true some assessments had been. He's a little evil Disney villain coded. Yeah, kind of amused that playing Go with a whole country wasn't enough for Yan Wuxi. For real. Practitioners of the demonic discipline were fickle in their conduct, driven purely by self-interest. In the end, Yu Shengyan was a disciple of Huan Yue sect, one of the 3 demonic sects. He would never have been merciful enough to save Shen Xiao if there was nothing in it for him. Shizun, Shin Qiao is a very special status, so why aren't we exchanging him for a favor from Xuandu Mountain? Surely they cannot leave their own sect leader to wander around as a vagrant, even if only for the sake of their sect's reputation. Yan Wuxi sneered faintly. If his elder disciple Bayan Yan Mei were standing here, he would never have asked such a childish and ridiculous question. Yu Shengyan was still a bit too green. But he was in a good mood today and didn't begrudge an answer. Shen Qiao ranks within the world's top 10 martial artists, as you know. Even though he was a recluse and few have seen him fight, still he was someone who could take up Chief Finggui's mantle. So how unskilled could he be? After all, Kunyi is no hulagu, who joined the ranks of Xian Tian experts. Shen Qiao could have walked away from this duel unscathed, even if he did lose to Kunyi. So why did he suffer such a terrible defeat? It turned out that Yu Shengyan wasn't a complete fool. Hearing this, he said, something unexpected must have happened during the duel. And if that something was Xuandu Mountain's fault, then if we hand Shen Qiao over to them, they might not thank us for it. In which case, not only would we not earn any favor, we might even bring down trouble on our own heads. So, he wasn't entirely beyond help. Yan Wuxi looked askance at him. With me here, Huan Yue sect need not concern ourselves with the opinions of others, let alone exchange for any favors. Shen Qiao might have been of extraordinary status, but to Yan Wuxi he was no more than a novel plaything. So you're right, a little bit of the plaything coming in. It was an incredibly imperious thing to say, but Yan Wuxi could pull it off. 10 years ago, he'd battled Chui Yu Wang, and although he'd suffered injuries in defeat, I'm going to say Chui, Yu Wang hadn't escaped unscathed either. Back then, Chui Yu Wang's power was already unfathomable, even on par with Qi Finggui's. 10 years later, Chui Yu Fang and Qi Fenggui were dead, and Yan Wuxi had broken through the Fenglin scripture's 9th stage and risen to even greater heights. That was hard. It was impossible to know how far he'd progressed just yet, but he surely wasn't below where he'd been 10 years ago. These names are killing me. Scant few people had yet learned of his reappearance in the Jianghu. Otherwise, things would have been much livelier. The world's top 10 rankings would definitely need an update too. When he thought of that, Yu Shengyan's eyes grew hot with excitement. Yep, I'm finding out again, Annika. When he thought of that, Yu Shengyan's eyes grew hot with excitement. Oh boy. Thanks, Peerless. Or thanks, Truffle. While Shuzhen was in seclusion, Huan sect came around looking for trouble twice every 3 days, he said. This disciple fought with San Jing Xing once and was injured, so he had to leave Fenglin Pavilion or Providence and travel far into the Jianghu. That's why he traveled about for so many years. But fortunately, your esteemed self has returned. What outsiders called demonic sects or the demonic discipline was in truth a blanket term. Initially, the demonic discipline referred to the practitioners of Riyue Mountain's Ryu sect in Fanglin Providence, but later Riyue sect splintered into 3 branches: Huan Yue sect, He Huan sect, and Fa Jing sect. Although the three branches were all part of the demonic discipline, they were at odds with each other. Their clashes were extensive and endless, both overt and covert. After Yan Wuxi entered seclusion 10 years ago, He Huan sect had eyed up the leaderless Huan Yue sect and aspired to absorb it. However, the disciples of Huan Yue sect were always scattered, and the sect itself was uncentralized. Furthermore, Bian Yanmei was cautious and low-key with his actions. He couldn't defeat the likes of Yuan Shu or Song Jing Xing, but he covertly stirred up a fair bit of trouble for He Huan sect. Thus, their efforts canceled each other out, so He Huan sect hadn't gained much for their trouble. Instead, it was Yu Shengyan who'd gotten the short end of the stick several times, owing to his youth and late entry into the sect. Now that Yan Wuxi was out of seclusion, the members of Huan Yue sect were like lost children who'd found their mother. Naturally, Yu Shengyan was overjoyed and overcome. Ordinary servants won't be able to tend to Shen Qiao's injuries, so stay here and look after him for a few days until he wakes, said Yan Wuxi. Then return to Banbu Peak and make sure to master the Fenglin Scripture's 5th stage. Yu Shengyan respectfully responded, "This disciple obeys." Shen Qiao was badly injured, but the wounds on his face were mostly scratches from when he'd fallen. Once the blood was cleaned off, his original appearance was revealed. Neither the abrasions on his face nor the circle of gauze around his head could detract from his handsome beauty. From the curve of his nose to his tightly closed lips, all of his features carried an air of aloof restraint. He looked very much like what anyone would expect from one of Xuandu Mountain's Taoist practitioners, someone far removed from the common people. It wasn't hard to imagine how much brighter his splendor might shine once his eyes finally opened. Of course, Yu Shengyan wasn't exactly ugly himself. He was one of Yan Wuxi's disciples, after all, and Yan Wuxi didn't take on ugly disciples. He'd seen many peerless beauties during his travels, but he'd still spent a long moment staring at Shen Qiao's bruised and battered face in a daze. Only afterward did he pick up the ointment and begin applying it to him, all while sighing on the inside. Broken bones could be set and meridians could be rejoined, but badly injured internal organs were not so simple to repair. Even worse, his cultivation had been greatly degraded. From now on, he might be even weaker than a common man. When Yu Shengyan tried to imagine losing all his hard-earned martial arts in a single night, his mind rebelled at the idea. And in Shen Qiao's situation, the shock would be even greater. Such a pity, Yu Shengyan muttered to himself, looking at the pale, bloodless face and shaking his head. Yan Wuxi had only stepped in to save Shen Qiao on a whim. Now that the man was saved, all responsibility had been tossed onto Yu Shengyan, and Yan Wuxi didn't bother showing the slightest interest. It is a little funny that he doesn't take on ugly disciples, I agree. Sorry, I'm turning back on my heating pad. It is cold in this basement. Oh. Actually, my feet are cold. Okay, now I can go again. Funing country was small and didn't normally attract many visitors, but because the battle at Banbu Peak had been so famously sensational these days, there were quite a few Jianghu travelers stopping there to rest for the night after coming from Banbu Peak. Yu Shengyan was able to gather a fair bit of news from them, even with only the occasional trip outside. For example, The duel between Shen Xiao and Kun Yi had been extremely thrilling, but unfortunately Shen Xiao was no Qi Fengui. It was said that he was far below his master's level, while Kun Yi was well on the way to surpassing the prowess Hulagu had possessed 20 years ago. Thus, Taoist Master Shen wasn't just defeated, but also thrown off the cliff, and not even his bones had survived. It was rumored that before the duel, many tempers had flamed with righteous indignation on Kun Yi's brazen challenge to Shen Xiao. Some were eager to fight him themselves to smash the Gokturk's arrogance. But after the battle, when they saw Xuandu Mountain utterly defeated, the people who wanted to stand up all scampered away, too afraid to take a swing at Kun Yi. How different would it have been if they did? Like, really. Ugh. With the match, Kun Yi's reputation had soared. He'd replaced Shen Qiao and ascended to the top 10. It was said that on this visit to the Central Plains, he would challenge their martial experts one by one, and his next target was likely Buddhist master Shu Ting of Shao. The land had not been unified since the Jin's mass migration to the south and the uprising of the 5 barbarians. Now Zhao and Qi were in the north, the Chen dynasty was in the south, and the Gokturks and Tuyuhu each occupied vast stretches of land along the borders, while sects and families all served their own masters. As the leader of the Taoist sects, Xuandu Mountain had been firmly neutral since Qi Fenggui's time and did not involve themselves in worldly power struggles. Now that Shen Qiao had been defeated by Kun Yi and his fate was unknown, no one knew who'd succeed him as the leader of Xuandu Mountain, nor did they know if that successor would carry on the neutral stance of the previous generations. If they did not, the balance of the world would shift. But the protagonist at the center of this vortex remained lying in bed while these rumors swirled, with Yu Xingyan and the villa's servants applying his medicine and changing his clothes for him every day. Devoid of thought or consciousness, of joy or sorrow, he was completely unaware of the happenings in the outside world. It wasn't until half a month later that he made his first movement. Hastily summoned by the servants, Yu Xingyan watched as Shen Qiao slowly opened his eyes. "You've been badly injured," he said, "and your broken bones haven't mended yet, so it's best if you stay still." The other man frowned a little, his lips opening and closing as if he wanted to say something. Then a blank look came over his face. Surely the fall hadn't actually turned him into an idiot. Yu Shengyan pondered while he asked, "Do you remember what your name is?" The other man gave a sluggish blink, then slowly shook his head, the movement so slight it was almost imperceptible. Amnesia? I mean, that was to be expected. After all, his head had suffered severe trauma. Yu Shengyan still remembered the day he'd carried Shen Qiao back and how there'd been a gaping gash on the back of his head so long and deep he could nearly see the dense white skull inside. "That's harsh. Ouch." "This friend," Shen Qiao spoke with extreme effort. Yu Xingyan moved closer to listen. "There is only darkness before my eyes. Perhaps I cannot see." Yu Xingyan was shocked. Shen Qiao hadn't woken up an idiot. Instead, he'd woken up blind? Okay. Hang on. I'm gonna change this momentarily. Hang on. That one's better. That one's better. The other color was starting to hurt my eyes a little bit. So we're gonna go with this one. Chapter 3, A Game. Your name is Shen Qiao. You were a disciple of our Huan Yue sect, and you've suffered a great injury somehow. Fortunately, I happened to pass by and find you, and we managed to save you just in time. The enemies who hurt you were from He Huan sect. I was no match for them on my own, so I brought you here first. Once you've healed up and recovered your martial arts, we'll go back and take revenge on them. Yu Shengyan rattled off this nonsense with a straight face, but Shen Qiao listened to it all, solemn and intent. At the end, he asked, "Then, how should I address you?" "My surname is Yu Shengyan. I am your Shixian." These words defied all decency. Yu Shengyan was in his early 20s. While Shen Qiao's appearance didn't show his age, he was Qi Fenggui's disciple, and he had led Xuandu Mountain for 5 years. How could he possibly be younger than Yu Shengyan? Oh, good night, Truffle. Oh, I get it. All right. We're just starting chapter 3, so the plan is to go through chapter 5. But the time right now is 1:55. I can put a bookmark in for you. I'll put in a little marking for you, Truffle. That way you can find it. I wrote it down, so I'll put in for Truffle. Okay. It was an obvious ploy on Yu Xingyan's part, taking advantage of Shen Qiao's blindness to earn an undue address. But Shen Qiao followed his lead obediently. "Greetings, Shixian." Looking into that kind and honest face, Yu Xingyan inexplicably felt the smallest twinge of guilt. He tried to brush aside the topic. "That's a good boy. Since you can't get up yet, just stay on your back and recuperate. Once you've healed, I'll bring you to pay respects to our master." "All right," said Shen Qiao. He closed his eyes, but then reopened them a moment later. His eyes didn't focus, so they appeared vacant, his gaze spiritless. "Shixian? Is there something else?" Yu Shengyan knew he had a soft spot for beauties. When he saw Shen Qiao, the glorious sect leader who'd sat at the helm of the world's Taoist sects, fallen into such dire straits, he thought again that it was such an awful misfortune. Shen Qiao was truly pitiful. If the past him were here instead, with his sect in hand and his martial arts at its peak, how majestic would that be? "I wish to drink some water." "Don't drink any water for now. The medicine will surely be ready in a moment. For the time being, you must take medicine as your water." Just as he said this, a maid came over with the medicine. Perhaps the wild backstory he'd woven for Shen Qiao just now had aroused his rare sense of guilt, because Yu Shengyan took the bowl in hand, asked the maid to prop Shen Qiao's neck up with a pillow, and then personally fed him the medicine, spoon by spoon. Though Shen Qiao's bones weren't completely shattered, they came close. His muscles, tendons, and meridians were all gravely injured, and he'd been on the verge of losing his life. It was only on account of his strong foundations that he awakened in less than a month. He'd have to stay in bed for 3 more months if he was to have any hope of recovery. Yu Shengyan had endured much hardship beneath Yan Wuxi when it came to training, but outside of training, the disciples' lifestyle was no hardship at all. Demonic sects were always extravagant, so his food, clothing, and spending rivaled that of a rich family's young master. Spoon-feeding medicine to someone was far out of his wheelhouse. No matter how careful he was, the occasional drop still splattered onto Shen Qiao's lapel, but Shen Qiao continued to drink spoonful after spoonful without any expression of dissatisfaction. Once he was finished, he even smiled in gratitude. "Thank you, Shixian." gentle and well-behaved, handsome and amiable. The curve of his smile wasn't broad, but it was enough to tint his pale face with warmth. The maid at his side flushed quietly and quickly averted her eyes. Shen Xiao didn't ask any questions, and that's what Yu Shengyan found strange. If he'd been the one to wake up without his memories, while blind, injured, and unable to get out of bed, then even if he managed to keep his spirit from breaking, he certainly couldn't have stayed this calm. Why haven't you asked me when you'll recover? With Shixian and Shifu around, you must be rushing about here and there, running yourselves ragged over my situation. Shen Xiao coughed several times, the movement tugging on his wound and eliciting a frown. If I asked, wouldn't I simply trouble you further? Yu Shengyan found himself tongue-tied. Perhaps it was because he'd never seen someone so considerate and thoughtful, or perhaps because he really did feel a little guilty when he looked at that face. But he didn't know what to say. Only after a long moment did he speak again. Then you should rest properly first. I won't bother you any more. I'll return tomorrow to give you more medicine. Thank you, Shixian. Please send Shizun my regards as well. I will. Yu Shengyan didn't want to drag out the awkwardness any longer. He rubbed his nose, said these words, and left. He had some doubts about whether Shen Qiao was faking his amnesia, but he visited Shen Qiao daily, and his patient was always the same as when he first awakened. Gentle, optimistic, and full of gratitude towards Yu Shengyan. Whatever Yu Shengyan said, Shen Qiao accepted it without question, as honest and straightforward as a blank sheet of paper. Once he was able to get out of bed and move around a little, Shen Qiao even proposed to personally visit his Shizun, Yan Wuxi, to thank him. If not for Yu Shengyan's reminder, Yan Wuxi would have forgotten about Shen Qiao entirely. During his 10 years of seclusion, the world had undergone drastic changes. It was far more than he could be briefed on in just a couple of sentences. There were many sects in the world, each backing different political powers and regimes. The Gao clan of Qi was known for their erratic and outlandish behavior, and many generations of their emperors had held intimate ties with the demonic sects. Ever since Gao Wei became emperor, he'd grown close to He Huan sect, and so He Huan sect's influence within Qi had surged as well. Back when Yuan Hu was in control of Shao, he'd revered Buddhism. That's why Buddhist master Shu Ting had been honored as state preceptor of Shao. However, after Yuan Yang came to power, the winds shifted. The new emperor believed in neither Taoism nor Buddhism and even prohibited both by imperial edict. As a result, the influence of Buddhism greatly declined. As for the Chen dynasty in the south, it was led by the Confucian Lin Chuan Academy. Its master Ruyan Qihuai was single-minded in his service to the Emperor of Chen, and in return, the Emperor relied on him heavily. Before Yan Wuxi had gone into seclusion, he served as an official in Shao under another identity, as an assistant to the then Duke of Lu, Yuan Yang. But when he was wounded in a battle with Chu Yu Wang, he was forced to flee. Before leaving, he instructed his eldest disciple, Bian Yanmei, to stay by Yuan Yang's side. Now that he had re-emerged, he had to make a trip to Zhao and pay a visit to Yuan Yang, who had ascended to emperor after seizing his authority back from Yuan Hu. In recent years, Zhao had amassed power little by little, which none of the other countries were pleased with. Not only that, but the three schools of thought weren't on good terms with the Emperor of Zhao either. Yuan Yang prohibited Buddhism and Taoism and had also denied the Confucians the right to set up lectures within Zhao, which prevented them from mass recruiting disciples. It was amid these circumstances that Huan Yue sect courted Yuan Yang with their support, and Yuan Yang came to need Huan Yue sect to maintain his rule. After meeting with Yuan Yang, Yan Wuxi left northern Zhao and made a side trip to Xuandu Mountain to meet Kunyi, the rumored #1 martial expert of the Gok Turks, the vanquisher of Shenqiao. They fought a match that ended in Kunyi's defeat. Yan Wuxi's moniker, Demon Lord, resurfaced in the Jianghu, and both heaven and earth shuddered. Rumors abounded that another terrifying powerhouse had emerged from the demonic sects to fill the void left by Chu Yu Wang. But now that Qi Fengui was gone, one less person could stand as his equal. In Yan Wuxi's opinion, while Kun Yi was certainly skilled and adequately talented, his was still a far cry from Hulagu's past performance. Even compared to other famous members of the current top 10, Kun Yi wasn't outstanding. The fact that he injured Xuandu Mountain's sect leader so grievously was a strange thing in itself. However, this was not his main concern. The true story behind Shen Qiao's injuries, and if it was related to Kun Yi, Yan Wuxi had no interest in learning more about either. The only reason he'd targeted Kun Yi was so that everyone would know he'd resurfaced in the Jianghu. Kun Yi was in the limelight after defeating Xuandu Mountain's sect leader, so he was the most suitable choice. Even more importantly, Yan Wuxi's greatest gain during this trip was not making a name for himself for defeating Kun Yi, but learning the whereabouts of one of the Zhu Yang strategy scrolls. Legend held that 50 years ago, Tao Hongjing, a grandmaster of his generation, met an immortal on Mount Mao and was granted the Dengzhen instructions. That book contained 4 parts, and Tao Hongjing organized 3 of them into a manual called the Dengzhen Concealed Instructions. As for the small remaining part, Tao Hongjing fashioned it into a separate book because its contents were cryptic, relating mainly to the union of man and heaven through cultivation. To this he added his lifetime of learnings and the key points of his understanding, and altogether they later became the renowned Zhu Yang strategy. Tao Hongjing was a man of great learning. Though he was a Taoist priest by trade, he was proficient in all 3 schools of thought, and he'd also received the lifelong learnings of immortal master Song Yu Yue from Dan Yang. Taken together, this knowledge transformed his martial arts beyond perfection. Even Qi Fengui was forced to admit defeat. Tao Hongjing was the undisputed #1 in the world. Of course, considering these origins, everyone was dying to read the Zhu Yang strategy. It was said that if one could comprehend all 5 volumes of the Zhu Yang strategy, they'd finally be able to glimpse the zenith sought by all martial artists throughout the ages, grasp it, and break through to a new echelon beyond all others. It might even be possible to ascend to the heavens as an immortal. Unfortunately, after Tao Hongjing passed on, Mount Mao's Shangqing sect became embroiled in dynastic politics. Each disciple had their own stance and position, and as the Liang dynasty fell into civil strife, the 5 volumes of the Zhu Yang strategy were scattered throughout the land, their whereabouts unknown. Ooh. Things didn't change until decades later when Qi Fengui himself admitted the truth about his martial arts. That beyond inheriting the legacy of Xuandu Mountain, he also benefited from the Zhu Yang strategy. After that, the locations of the Zhu Yang strategy were brought to light one after another. 1 volume was said to be hidden by Zhao, one was with the Tian Tai sect, and another with Xuandu Mountain. But the last 2 remained a mystery. there'd been no news for decades, and all searching proved fruitless. Years ago, Yan Wuxi had chanced upon the Zhu Yang strategy volume that was hidden within Zhao Palace. His incredible progress after his seclusion, his great leap in cultivation, was partially due to that very Zhu Yang strategy volume. Only those who'd experienced it personally could understand the Zhu Yang strategy's sheer brilliance. One glimpse had granted 100 insights. The Zhu Yang strategy encapsulated Tao Hongjing's lifelong work, integrating the mental cultivation techniques and martial arts of all three schools of thought. The parts were complementary, their union flawless. If Yan Wuxi could see the remaining 4 volumes, then not only might the supreme martial arts be within his grasp, but even the stuff of legends might become possible for him. Unraveling the natural laws, becoming one with heaven, all of it. Such was Yan Wuxi's original motive for his excursion. While Xuandu Mountain was leaderless and panicking, he would steal inside and search for the Xuanyang strategy scroll. But he didn't expect that this quirk of fate would lead him to discover something else. During their match, he realized that although Kun Yi's moves tracked back to the western regions, the source of his internal cultivation and true ki seemed different. In fact, they seemed almost imperceptibly to share a source with Yan Wuxi's. It was this that led him to suspect that the reason Hulugu was nearly matched Qi Fengui in power, lagging barely a step behind, was almost certainly because he'd gotten help from the Zhu Yang strategy. Kun Yi was one of the Gokturk's new generation of martial experts. Given time, he might end up on the same level Hulugu had occupied. If merging the Western region's cultivation techniques with the Zhu Yang strategy could create one Hulugu, then of course it could create a second. This greatly aroused Yan Wuxi's interest. For some time after the duel, he followed Kun Yi doggedly, picking fights with him whenever the mood arose. Kun Yi couldn't defeat him and had no chance of escape. On the verge of a nervous breakdown, he finally chose to return to the Gokturks. So, the internal cultivation, as we said before, is the cultivation of qi and breathing within the body, contrasting with the outer cultivation of combat techniques. Well, the true qi is a more precise term for qi commonly seen in media. In Taoism, one's true qi or life force is derived from the fusion of Xian Tian Qi and Hu Tian Shi. Okay, and also we have a picture. So this is Kun Yi. And up here we can see Yan Wuxi chasing him. He's like, seriously? Seriously, you're still chasing me? Because of course you would. Okay. Yan Wuxi didn't plan to chase him all the way to the Khaganate. So for the time being, he made his way leisurely back to the villa. The moment he returned, he heard his disciple say that Chen Qiao had woken and that he could get out of bed and walk. Right? He makes it his mission to never lose anybody, apparently. The moment he returned, he heard his disciple say that Shen Qiao had woken up and he could get out of bed and walk. Shen Qiao was leaning on a bamboo cane when he came to see Yan Wuxi. He approached step by step, his movement slow but very steady. A maid was by his side, supporting him. She whispered quietly to him, pointing out the path through the villa. Greetings, Shizun. Once the maid indicated the correct direction, Shen Qiao bowed towards where Yan Wuxi sat. Sit. Yan Wuxi put down the Weki piece he'd been holding. So it's a strategy board game, sometimes better known as Go in the West. It involves black and white pieces in a 19 by 19 grid. Opposite him was Yu Shengyan, crushing misery written all over his face. Some heartfelt relief was mixed in as well, though. He was obviously losing the game. Shen Qiao sat down with the help of the maid. After he'd woken, his memories were vague, so much so that he couldn't remember his own name or past. And of course, he had absolutely no recollection of Yan Wuxi and Yu Xingyan. "How are your injuries healing?" asked Yan Wuxi. "And many thanks to Shizun for his concern. This disciple can already get out of bed and walk, but his limbs are still weak, and his martial arts have yet to recover, it seems." "Hand," ordered Yan Wuxi. Shen Qiao held out his hand obediently, and Yan Wuxi immediately pinched both his wrist and gate of life. So, a vital acupoint located on the small of one's back between the kidneys, serving as the source of one's life force. A connected acupoint is located on the pinky finger. He examined them for a moment, and a trace of surprise flitted across his impassive face. He gave Shen Qiao a meaningful glance. Because Shen Qiao couldn't see, his expression remained guileless and vacant. Yan Wuxi asked, "Do you feel any discomfort?" Shen Qiao thought for a moment. "Every night at midnight, my body grows hot and cold, then there's a dull pain in my chest. Sometimes it's so painful I can barely walk." Yu Shengyan added, "This disciple had a doctor look at it. They said that it probably had to do with Shidi's serious injuries and that his recuperation will take time." So, Shidi is literally junior martial brother, used by the speaker to address a male junior with whom they share the same master or sect. Just in case you didn't know. Yan Wuxi sneered a little at how smooth that Shidi had been. Then he said to Shen Qiao, "Your martial arts aren't completely lost. I felt a wisp of true ki within your body. It was not strong, but neither was it weak, so recovery may be possible with time. However, my Huan Yue sect has no place for worthless idiots. I have an errand for your Shixian, and you should follow along and lend him a hand." "Of course," said Shen Qiao. He didn't ask what the errand was. It was exactly how he'd been with Yu Shengyan. He agreed to whatever was said. The rest of the time, he only sat there quietly, making no unnecessary movements. Well, he's healing, like, a heck of a lot of damage. Like, I don't blame him for no unnecessary movements. Like, let's be real. In his current state, Shen Qiao was a fallen tiger, but Yan Wuxi felt no sympathy for his plight. The man's misfortune only ignited an even stronger malice within him. More and more he wanted to dye that pure white completely black, to ruin it. "Then go back to your room first and rest," he said airily. Like, okay, I know we're not there yet by any stretch of the imagination, but that whole line, "The man's misfortune only ignited an even stronger malice within him. More and more he wanted to dye that pure white completely black to ruin it." That line, "dye that pure white completely black to ruin it," for some reason I was like, hot. Like, I know it, like, that's a little hot. Just that I know that's like a hear me out statement, but like it gives you chills a little bit. Like, am I the only one? Like, is it? I'm just saying. We love a problematic demon king. He toxic, but in a hot way. For real, for real. Yeah. Okay. Shen Xiao obediently rose and bowed to excuse himself, then left slowly with the maid's assistance. I'm glad it's not just me. Yamushi pulled his gaze from Shen Xiao's back and said to Yu Xingyan, "You need not rush to Banbu Peak for now. Make a trip directly to Qi and kill the Grand Master of Remonstrance, Yan Shi Wen, along with his entire family." Yes. Yu Xingyan accepted without hesitation. Has that man offended Shizun? He is a member of He Huan sect and one of He Huan's sect's eyes on in Qi and Qi. Yu Shengyan was only too excited to hear this. Yes, He Huan sect has strutted around for too long. While you were in seclusion, Yan Shu Shu repeatedly made trouble for Huan Yue sect. If we don't return the favor, our Huan Yue sect would look awfully soft, wouldn't we? This disciple was set out in a few days. Then he paused, his smile fading just a touch. Shizun wants me to bring Shen Qiao along? He asked doubtful. He lost all his martial arts, so I fear he won't be much help at all. The shadow of a smile crept across Yan Wushi's face. Since you have called him Shidi, you should at least take him to see the world. His martial arts may not have recovered, but he can still kill a person or two. Yu Shengyan understood then. His master was treating Shen Qiao like a sheet of white paper, one that he wanted to dye a solid black. Even if Shen Qiao came to his senses or recovered his memory one day, anything he'd already done would be irrevocable. At that point, it would be impossible to return to the righteous path, even if he wanted to. And what was wrong with being like them anyway? They acted without constraints, did whatever they wanted, and were free from the laws and conventions of the world. Yu Shengyuan believed that it was human nature to be evil. Deep down, he thought, everyone possessed a dark side. The only difference was whether that dark side had a chance to awaken. Those so-called Taoist, Buddhist, and Confucian ideologies went on and on about benevolence and virtue, morality and compassion, but in the end, they were just using righteousness to paper over their own selfish desires. There was even less to be said about struggles for the throne. Might makes right, and winner takes all. Was there any country whose rulers' hands weren't soaked in blood? Who could claim that they were cleaner than the rest? Yes, this disciple will make sure to guide Shidi well. All right. What are we doing? Okay, so we have about 20 pages left. Chapter 4. Getting to know the beauty. Yu Shengyan didn't expect the purpose of their trip to be didn't explain the purpose of their trip to Shenqiao when they first set out. Funing country wasn't too far from Yicheng, the capital of Qi. At Yu Shengyan's normal speed, he could get there in 3 to 5 days. But out of consideration for Shen Qiao's health, he set a slower pace, and they took 7 days to arrive in Yicheng. Shen Qiao's current condition was still unsuited for long trips, though, even one taken at such a leisurely pace. Right after they arrived in Yicheng, he fell ill with low fever. Huan Yue sect didn't have many disciples, but they didn't lack for money. The sect owned a house in Yicheng, which is where Yu Shengyan and Shen Qiao stayed. Yan Wuxi was the owner of this house, so when the servants saw Yu Shengyan and Shen Qiao, they addressed them as young masters and made fitting arrangements for them with the utmost care. Shen Qiao spoke little during their travels. He'd walk, stop when Yu Shengyan told him to, and never mentioned his illness. Yu Shengyan had to discover it for himself. When he asked, Shen Qiao just smiled and said, I know that this trip is to complete an errand Shizun assigned. I'm already very ashamed that my injuries prevent me from helping. How could I burden Shixian with even more trouble? His complexion was pale and clammy, yet he still wore a gentle smile when he spoke. It made him look pitiful, yet charming. After all, Yu Xingyan was not yet Yan Wuxi. A bit of compassion welled up inside of him. A rare occurrence. You may be ill, but it's no trouble to tell me about it. I'm not an unreasonable person. We do still have to complete Shizen's errand, though. I've already made inquiries. Shi Wen is a Huan sect member, but as a martial artist, he's just second rate. Plus, his wives and children know nothing of martial arts. Their household has taken no precautions, so I'll have no trouble killing him on my own. But Shizun has requested the death of his entire family, too. When the time comes, I'll bring you there with me. Once I've killed Yan Shiwen, I'll grab a woman or child for you to take care of. This was the first time that Shen Qiao heard what the task Yan Wuxi had given them entailed. Surprise colored his face. May I ask Shixian about the history of Huan sect? What grudge do we have with Yan Shiwen? Jiwen. It's Jiwen. Yu Shengyan remembered that Shen Qiao still knew nothing, so he explained. Our Huan Yue sect, Huan sect, and Fajing sect all originate from Fenglin Providence's Ruiye sect. When the Ruiye sect fell apart, it split into 3 branches. Usually, since we all come from the same source, we'd be united against outsiders. But everyone wants to be the one who reunifies the noble discipline. So this is how practitioners of the demonic discipline refer to themselves, contrasting with outsiders. It can also refer to Ryue sect itself. Especially Huan sect. Their sect leader is called Yuan Shushu, and the disciples there are all just like her. They've always preferred to wield their beauty to satisfy their ambitions. But they're not weak in martial arts either, so you should probably steer clear of them. This Yan Shushu has a lover named Song Jingxing. If you know, you know. Who was once Chu Yu Wang's disciple. Those 2 vermin worked hand in glove together, carrying out their evil schemes day in and day out. While Shizun was in cultivation, they even tried time and time again to annex our Huan Yue sect. Shen Qiao nodded. But since Yan Ji Wen is only second rate within their sect, and he has the status of a chi official, I imagine that he himself has never made trouble for Huan Yue sect. So why must Shizun go after him? Yu Shengyan curled his lips. Shitty. That injury of yours has turned you soft and naive. Practically a bunny rabbit. Yan Shiwen is a special case. He's used his identity, the key official, as a cover, so only a few people know that he's from Huan sect. If we kill him, first, it sends a warning to our enemies and frightens them. And second, Huan sect will understand that we know everything about them. They won't dare make any more brazen moves after that. Third, since they made trouble for us while Shizun was gone, we have to return the favor now that Shizun is back, right? Otherwise, won't everyone think that Huan Yue sect is some kind of pushover? The year Chu Yu Wang died, Huan Yue sect was the strongest of Ryue sect's 3 branches, and we had the most hope of reunifying the noble discipline. It was only because Shizun got injured and was forced to retreat into seclusion that Huan sect even had an opportunity at all. Then what about Fajing sect? Have they never made trouble for us? Asked Chen Qiao. Honestly, out of the 3 sects, only Huan sect relies on strength and numbers. Fajing sect is the same as Huan Yue sect. Disciples scattered over many locations, each acting on their own. They don't usually gather together. After Shizun left seclusion, he only contacted me alone, and that's why I rushed over. As for you, he coughed delicately. Naturally, you're with us because you were injured. So, in short, the three sects don't get along with one another, but only Hihuan sect keeps making trouble and is the most flagrant about it. Shen Qiao sighed. Grudges have a source and debt's a debtor. Since Hihuan sect is led by Yan Shushu, why does Shizun not take it up with her directly? Even if you take it up with Yan Shiwen, his wives and children have no ties to the Jianghu, so why involve them? Yu Shengyan fiddled with a tassel hanging in front of the bed, unconcerned. Shizun has given us orders, so all we need to do is follow them. Why ask so many questions? Grass must be pulled up from the roots, or else the wind will revive it all anew. If we don't kill Yan Shuai's wives and children, should we just wait around for them to seek revenge someday? After saying this, he stood up. Anyway, the matter isn't urgent. We've still got a couple of days until the 7th. For the next 2 days, you should rest properly. Once you're well, I'll ask someone to show you around Yicheng. In my opinion, in terms of world capitals, Yicheng is as luxurious as Jiankong and quite a bit grander. It's worth strolling around, especially the pleasure district. Yu Shengyan was only in his early 20s, but he was a real romantic. In southern Chen, he concealed his identity and discussed poetry and verses, befriending famous scholars and making a decent reputation for himself. At the moment, he was in high spirits and about to go on chatting, but then he considered Shen Qiao's condition. Even if the mood struck, the man wouldn't have the strength to perform. So Yu Shengyan held his tongue and gave Shen Qiao a meaningful smile instead. It's no matter. You have amnesia at the moment, and you can't recall the past. Just so you know, our Huan Yue sect is full of free-spirited, romantic people who do as they please. You can take it slow. You'll have plenty of opportunities to experience everything in the future. Like, I totally get that he's misleading him and has done many horrible things, but like, you have to admit, Yu Shengyan, not a bad guy. Like, at least not to Shen Qiao. You can tell he's got still some morals going on for him. Like, and he personally admitted, like, he's like, I am taking him by a pretty face. Like, let's not be dishonest. But, like, he's still treating our boy pretty good. Let's put it out there. Like, when Yan Wuxi traveled, he used the identity of a wealthy merchant with the last name Zai. So the plaque on the house read Zai Residence. Yu Shengyan was often absent, leaving Shen Qiao behind alone. Everyone at the residence couldn't help but sympathize with Shen Qiao, since he treated them all with kindness and because he was so sickly and frail. The maids who served beside him were especially sympathetic. A few days after the two of them arrived, the maids had already grown much closer to Shen Qiao and even tried to relieve his boredom by telling him about the scenery and people around the Qi capital and Zai residence. Once he was feeling better, and since he had nothing to do, Shen Qiao asked them to take him around outside on a couple of excursions. On these, he discovered that Yi Cheng was indeed as Yu Shengyan had described. White jade lined the streets, the roofs were trimmed with tiles of carved glaze. Qi Gao's clan were Xianbei acculturated Han by descent, so their buildings and architecture, their clothes and customs, all retained some traditional Xianbei influences. Compared to the refined elegance of the South, here there was a sense of unrestrained vigor. The exact same kind of wine, when sold in Yi Cheng's liquor stores, tasted stronger and richer than it did in Jiankong. Wide robes and loose sleeves, fluttering lapels and dancing sashes, exquisite horses and extravagant carriages. Even if Shen Qiao couldn't see, he could feel the capital's glory and prosperity in the fragrance and atmosphere of Yi Cheng's streets and alleys. With the maid's assistance, he entered the pharmacy and sat down in the side hall to rest, while the maid went to fill the prescription. The medicine was for Shen Xiao. He had practically become a medicine pot himself. Every day he had to imbibe at least one giant bowl of medicinal soup. Although Yan Wuxi wasn't about to do the charitable thing and help restore his martial arts, he also hadn't abandoned Shen Xiao to linger on, half dead. The medicine he was drinking now was mainly for regulating his qi, blood, and meridians, as well as strengthening his bones and bolstering his yang energy. At the moment, Shen Xiao's internal energy was completely gone, hollowed out. With his memories missing as well, it was pointless to expect his martial arts to return anytime soon. The fact that he could now walk unhindered and move freely, though, was all thanks to those few months of rest and recuperation. When the maid had come out today to get medicine, he'd followed along to catch some fresh air. He could scarcely imagine that, despite his blindness and sickly appearance, he still drew quite a bit of attention while he sat there in the pharmacy. Shen Xiao had always had a handsome face. Though it was thinner now, his looks and grace remained intact. He was dressed in a plain bamboo green robe. His hair held no crown and was kept in place with a plain wooden pin. He sat and did nothing, quiet and unspeaking, the corners of his mouth drawn up in a subtle smile as he listened to the maid speak with the pharmacy shopkeeper. It seemed that Yan Wuxi wasn't worried about Shen Xiao being recognized while out and about. He'd allowed him to appear in public and hadn't instructed Yu Shengyan to conceal his appearance at all. He had no reason to worry, since Shen Xiao rarely came down from the mountain to appear in public. Not before he'd been sect leader, not after. It was said that even Xuandu Mountain's disciples might not recognize their new sect leader. There'd been a few Xuandu Mountain disciples who were famous outside of the sect, but in the end, none of them were selected to lead. Instead, it'd been the relatively unknown Shen Xiao. Perhaps only Qi Fenggui himself knew the reason why, and he was gone. What was more, on the day Kun Yi dueled Shen Xiao, only the two of them stood at the summit of Banbu Peak. Space was limited, so that those who came to watch were all on Yinghuai Peak opposite them. There was some distance in between, so onlookers might not have been able to recall Shen Xiao's appearance in detail. And, after his bout of serious illness, Shen Xiao's presence and energy were greatly reduced. But all that was just speculation on Yu Shengyan's part. Knowing Shizen's nature, Yu Shengyan privately guessed that Shen Xiao was probably nothing but a whim to Shizen, something for him to manipulate and toy with. Sir, I have the medicine now. Shall we go? Shen Xiao nodded, and the maid helped him up. The two of them had just made it to the pharmacy entrance when they heard someone say, "This gentleman is so charming and elegant, yet I have never seen him before. May I ask for your esteemed name?" The owner of the voice did not hide their astonishment. When the maid's steps paused, Shen Xiao knew that they were talking about him. "This humble one is Shen Xiao," he said. "So it's Shen Lang Jun." The woman's voice was clear and present, vivacious and bubbly. "Is Shen Lang Jun from the capital? Or perhaps, which noble family is he from?" So, Lang Jun is a respectful address for young men, similar to gentleman. Can be used as a suffix, as seen here. The maid leaned in, whispering in Shen Xiao's ear, "This is Chief Steward Han's daughter, Han Yang." Chief Steward Han was Han Feng. He wasn't just the chief steward for someone's house. He was the palace attendant of Qi. He was a prominent man in Qi. His son had married a princess, and he himself was known as one of the three nobles of Qi, along with Mu Tipo and Gao Anagong. His authority eclipsed the imperial court and common people alike. As the Han family's daughter, Han Ying could have anything she wished. Shen Qiao said with a smile. This Shen has long heard of Han Yangzi's renowned name, but he is currently suffering from a disease of the eyes, so he cannot see Han Yangzi's beauty. He hopes you will forgive him. When this Shen recovers from his illness one day, he will come to visit. So a respectful address for young women, similar to Madam, can be used as a suffix as seen here. Han Ying had noticed his spiritless gaze. She couldn't help pitying him a bit, mourning how such a beautiful gentleman just had to be blind. Her interest waning, she said, That's fine then. You should take care of yourself. Xiao Lian, go tell the shopkeeper to bring some ginseng over. Let Shen Liangjun take it with him. I'll pay for it. Thank you, Han Niangzi, said Shen Xiao. This Shen has something for you as well, though it isn't much of a gift. Please kindly accept it. Han Ying perked back up. Oh, what is it? Miao, said Shen Qiao. Bring that box from the carriage over there. The maid gave an answer, then hurried to bring over the box Shen Qiao mentioned. Shen Qiao couldn't see, but his words were gentle, and his manner of speech was lovely, with a quality that soothed the listener. Even Han Ying, an arrogant and willful rich lady who stopped beautiful men on the street just to flirt with them, couldn't help but soften her tone with him. The maid returned with the box just as Shen Qiao and Han Yiming finished their brief exchange and said farewell. Han Yiming had asked for Shen Qiao's address and even said that she'd come to visit some other day. Finally, she mounted her horse and took her leave. When he returned to the Zai residence, Yu Shengyan heard about the encounter and had to click his tongue in amazement. You've got a real knack. You've acquainted yourself with Han Ying after just one trip outside. That girl is the shizzy of Xiao Qi Ying from Mount Tai Bixia sect. Her martial arts are nothing special, but because of her father's status, she throws her weight around in the city. Shen Qiao smiled. In my opinion, she's not too bad. She didn't particularly throw her weight around. Yu Shengyan laughed. She's a real beauty, but unfortunately her personality is unbearable. Everyone in the capital agrees. You're the only one who says she isn't bad. Shen Qiao smiled, but didn't reply. Okay, we're down to our last chapter, so hang in there. We've got 10 pages left. I'm going to blow my nose because I feel it getting stuffy. For anyone who's new, we usually don't go this long. Usually it's like 2.5 hours. But because we had extra stuff at the beginning, and etc., we went a little longer today. But usually it's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Okay, chapter 5, Separate Ways. It was about 3 days after this little episode and the day that Yu Xingyan was scheduled to make his move. The new year had just come and the Lantern Festival had yet to arrive, so Yi Cheng was bustling and bursting with a joyful atmosphere. Yan Shiwen wasn't a very high-ranking official. He Huan sect probably only positioned him there to give themselves more eyes and ears inside the court. He wasn't skilled in martial arts, and he'd taken no precautions for his safety. Even though Yu Shengyan was just a disciple, Yan Shiwen would probably give him about as much trouble as a cool drink of water. However, since Yan Wuxi had instructed him to do so, Yu Xingyan still brought Shen Qiao with him. While Shen Qiao waited outside the Yan residence, Yu Shengyan leapt straight onto the roof, then soundlessly groped his way towards Yan Shiwei's study. According to his information, Yan Shiwei was quite cunning, despite being a second-rate martial artist. That was why he'd been able to land a place in Huan sect. Yu Shengyan was only killing him to frighten his enemies, though, so he hadn't really given the man himself much thought. Only when he entered did he realize that something was wrong. The Yan residence's servants were still there, and guards still patrolled the perimeter from time to time, but although he searched from the study to the bedroom, Yu Shengyan failed to find any trace of Yan Shiwei himself. And it wasn't only Yan Shiwen. It seemed that even his wives, concubines, and children had all disappeared into thin air. Wrath-like and wrapped in shadows, Yu Shengyan's movements took after the style of Huan Yue sect, unpredictable and cunning. He alighted inside the inner house and grabbed a servant and tapped an acupoint near his throat, rendering him mute. Feeling like he'd fallen into a surreal dream, the man was unable to react in time. Where is Yan Shiwen? The servant's eyes widened when he realized how effortlessly this handsome young man could restrain him. He was seized with panic, but couldn't speak. Yu Shengyan smiled thinly at him. You tell me where Yan Shiwen and his family have gone, and I won't kill you. Otherwise, even if you call for help, I can kill everyone in this house until not a soul is left. Do you understand? The servant was beyond frightened. He nodded convulsively. Yu Shengyan loosened his grip a little and undid the acupoint. Quickly, the servant said, The mistresses and young masters left 2 days ago. The master said he'd sent them to safety for a while, at his fair villa by the springs. Yu Shengyan sneered. Even if the women are gone, don't tell me Yan Shiwen left with them. He still has court tomorrow. Does he not intend to return? The servant said, The master didn't tell us too much when he left, so we don't know things. He ran out of patience for listening to this stammering and knocked the man unconscious with a palm strike. Then he found the Yan residence's chief steward and pressed him about the Yan family's whereabouts, but he received the exact same answer. Yu Shengyan wasn't stupid. By this point, he'd realized that Yan Shiwen had probably been warned that someone was coming to kill him. But Yan Wuxi himself had ordered the assassination. Apart from him, only Shen Xiao knew about it. Even the Zai residence's chief steward had no idea. Yu Shengyan certainly couldn't have gone around yelling about the plan and leaking the news himself. Icy, killing intent surged through his heart. At first, he wanted to crush the chief steward's throat right there, but then he gave it a second thought. Now that he couldn't kill the entire Yan family, killing one subordinate was meaningless. Might even put the enemy on higher alert and draw Huan sect's ridicule. Then he knocked the man unconscious and turned and left the residence. Steaming with anger, he went and found Shen Qiao, who was still waiting for him in a nearby alley. Did you tip off Yan Shiwen? Shen Qiao nodded, showing not the slightest hesitation or denial. Indeed. Enraged at how he'd ruined things, Yu Shengyan's usually careless smile was nowhere to be seen. Instead, his expression was cold and murderous. Why? I know that there is a rift between our sect and Huan sect. Yan Shiwen is a member of Huan sect, so Shizun wishes to kill him. It's not my place to comment on that. But are the children guilty? If he wants to kill Yan Shiwen, why bring his spouses and children into it? Coldly, Yu Shengyan said, It's not your place to say whether his spouses and children should die. But what I really wish to know is how exactly you managed to deliver the message to Yan Shiwen. You're blind, feeble, and can't even tell north from south. You said before that Yan Shiwen is a cunning man, said Shen Xiao. If there's a single detail out of place, it will arouse his suspicions. My prescription contains a portion of denguai, which is the Chinese anicca root. As its Chinese name literally means should return, it was often used in poetry as symbolism. This is why it aroused Yan Shiwen's suspicions. I managed to hide some of it and was looking for the chance to send it to the Yan residence. But then I happened to meet Han Yiying outside the pharmacy that day. Using the excuse of a return gift, I put what I'd intended to give Yan Shiwen inside a box and requested she pass it on to him. She assumed we were acquainted and asked no further questions. I imagined that when Yan Shiwen received the Dongguai, he must have sensed that something was wrong, so he moved his family in advance. Yu Shengyan was so angry he could only laugh. I truly underestimated you. I never anticipated you'd be so capable. He reached out and squeezed Shen Qiao's neck, slowly choking him. Do you know the consequences of ruining a mission assigned by Shizun? Shen Qiao had no strength to fight back. He couldn't breathe, and his complexion grew ugly, his chest heaving rapidly. He managed to spit out a broken, stilted sentence. The truth is, I'm not a Huan Yue sect disciple, am I? Yu Shengyan froze, and his hand went slack. Shen Qiao immediately grabbed onto the wall for support, coughing. How did you figure it out? A feeling, Shen Qiao said calmly. Although I have no memories, my judgment is still intact. Whether it's Shizun or Shixian, neither of you treated me like their disciple or martial sibling. The servants who served me at the first villa were very cautious with me too, as if they were afraid of revealing something they shouldn't. I have no martial ability, and I'm completely unable to help on this mission. Even though I'd only drag you down, Shizun still wanted me to come along. Not to mention that even if it was due to my own incompetence, me being injured this badly should have damaged my master's reputation. Yet you never mentioned anything about that. None of it made sense. Seeing Yu Shengyan made no move to reply, he continued. In truth, the method I used wasn't all that clever. It could only fool the Zai residence maids. If you hadn't considered Yan Shiwen beneath you, and if you'd sent someone to keep an eye on him, he wouldn't have been able to escape even if he tried. That's right. Yan Shiwen is insignificant, so I didn't take him seriously. That's why you had the opportunity to step in and take advantage. But do you know the consequences if Shizun learns of this? You save some people who have nothing to do with you, and they won't even know you helped them escape. If they did know, they might not even be grateful. Was it worth it? Shen Qiao shook his head. When it comes to worth, every heart weighs it differently. Grudges have a source, and debt's a debtor. But involving innocent people should never be commended. When you don't save the people you could have, when you don't take action when you could have, a shadow lodges in your heart forever. Whether other people know about it, whether they feel grateful, that's their business. Yu Shengyan had never seen Shen Qiao as he'd been before his fall, and he didn't know what he'd been like before his injuries. From the moment Shen Qiao had woken up, he'd been feeble and sickly, and spent 9 out of 10 days in bed. Other than his good looks, there was nothing remarkable about him. Although Yu Shengyan had never made any vicious comments, deep down he'd also looked down on Shen Qiao, thinking that only someone hopelessly incompetent could fall from a perfectly fine sect leader into such a dreadful state. But at this moment, as he leaned against the wall, Shen Qiao's face was as tranquil as a clear day, devoid of fear or panic. There, faintly visible, was the aura of someone who had once been a Grand Master of his generation. Yu Shengyan sneered. You can't even take care of yourself, but you've got the time to care if other people live or die. If you're so chock full of kindness, why not think about the day you lost all your martial arts, were left at the bottom of a cliff? We were the ones who saved you. If not for us, you would be a corpse in the wilderness by now, and this is how you repay us? Shen Qiao sighed. The kindness of saving a life should be repaid in abundance, but the two situations are He thought this would be a simple assignment, but he couldn't have guessed that Shen Qiao, amnesiac that he was, would act so unexpectedly. He'd even managed to pass information to Yan Shiwen right beneath Yu Xingyan's nose. When this news got back to Shizun, he would definitely be deemed incompetent, unable to handle even a minor task such as this. Shen Qiao was special, so Yu Xingyan couldn't kill him. He'd probably just have to bring him back for Shizun to deal with. Shen Qiao seemed to sense his mood and actually tried to reassure him. Don't worry, I will explain what happened to the sect leader. You won't be implicated. Yu Shengyan was sulky. You're the one who should be worried. Shen Qiao smiled. Abruptly he asked, Yu Shixian, since I'm not a member of Huan Yue's sect, may I ask if Shen Qiao is my real name? Yu Shengyan was silent for a moment. It's real. Then who was I before I was injured? Do I have any family who are still alive? When you get back, you should ask Shizun yourself. But they didn't get to see Yan Wuxi when they returned. Shortly after they departed for Yicheng, Yan Wuxi had also left the villa. They were told that he was headed for Xiao. Then, before Shizun left, did he leave behind any instructions? Yu Shengyan asked the villa steward. The master wanted you to head to Banbu Peak for your training, said the steward. As for Shen Gonzi, the master said that if everything went well, then he should remain in the villa to recuperate. But if Shen Gonzi disrupted your plans in Yicheng and gave you trouble, then he must leave here by himself and is forbidden from taking anything with him. Yu Shengyan was a bit taken aback. Did Shizun really say that? The steward gave him a strained sigh. Where would this lowly one find the gall to lie? Yu Shengyan had just been worrying about how he was going to explain himself upon their return. Who could have expected such a flippant conclusion? He pondered for a moment, then called for Shen Qiao and told him about the message Yan Wuxi had left for them. Shen Qiao took it quite calmly. After all, I did give you trouble, and I prevented you from completing the task the sect leader gave you. It's incredibly lenient of him to handle things this way. Yu Xingyan understood a thing or two about his master. The way he saw it, Yan Wuxi was definitely not being lenient. He probably had some other calculations going on. Shen Qiao was blind, and the world was in chaos. Anything could happen to him out there. If he got abducted and then people found out that the imposing sect leader of Xuandu Mountain had been reduced to an abductee, Xuandu Mountain's dignity would be in tatters. They wouldn't even have the face to remain in the Jianggu. Yu Shengyan might not have been as capricious and unrestrained as his master, but he still wasn't about to go against his master's wishes for Shen Qiao's sake. In that case, you should leave tomorrow. Northeast from here is Yicheng, and southeast is southern Chen. If you wish to go to Jiankang, you should head southeast, but the journey will be longer. You've already been to Yicheng. It's prosperous but chaotic, and the road there will also be full of vagrants. If you wish to live a peaceful life, go to southern Chen, which is better. Shen Qiao nodded and clasped his hands in thanks. Thank you for telling me, Yu Xiang. I have one request. I wish for Yu Xiang to tell me who I am and where I'm from. That way, I'll have somewhere to go. Yu Shengyan was indifferent. All things considered, there's no harm in telling you now. You used to be the sect leader of Xuandu's Violet Palace on Xuandu Mountain. During a fight with the Gok Turks' #1 martial artist, Kun Yi, you fell from the mountain's cliff. Shizun rescued you. However, I'd advise against rushing back there to look for kin. I haven't heard a word about anyone from Xuandu Mountain searching for you since the incident. Xuandu Mountain. Shen Qiao frowned, then muttered the name again, and a bewildered expression came over his face. Yu Shengyan sneered. Our Huan Yue sect may be demonic in the eyes of the world, but at least we're open and honest villains. We kill when we say we will, and will never be afraid to speak our minds. Unlike certain righteous sects who say one thing and do the opposite. Of course, it's up to you whether you take my word for it. If you end up dead, don't say I didn't warn you beforehand. Shen Qiao was silent. Early the next morning, the villa's servants woke him up and politely dismissed him from the building. He had nothing to call his own except a green bamboo cane. Forget copper coins. He didn't even have half a handful of food. Yu Shengyan was blatantly giving him zero leeway. Just as he intended, Shen Qiao was left to fend for himself. The dawn sun shone warmly down upon him, bringing with it the scent of spring. It wasn't unpleasant at all. Shen Qiao squinted a bit and raised a hand to shield his eyes. After gradual progress, he was now able to perceive light, though it only came through in blurred shapes, and his eyes stung and wept after looking too long. It was still better than opening his eyes to see nothing but darkness. He turned back to look at the villa. Though Huan Yue sect never had good intentions, it was undeniable that they'd taken him in and given him medical treatment and care. This was a favor that couldn't be erased. If Shen Qiao met Yan Wuxi in person one day, then he'd have to thank him. Oh, okay. And that's the end of our chapter, and where we're going to stop for tonight. I feel like that's a pretty good place to kind of pause it. It was a pretty clean break. Like first arc, I guess you could say. The slight healing, setting the baseline for a lot of things. And we also got through our historical primer, which was a lot, but it's important to know some of the context. I mean, we have our little references that the book gives us, but it's still important. But yeah, I agree. It was a good spot. No Mars rover. And it wasn't a cliffhanger this time. But anyway, we will continue on Thursday at 8 CST. Yeah, Shen Qiao is such an unassuming badass and love him. He is. He really is. He's got that calm, badass vibe to him. But yes, good night. I hope everyone has a good rest of your evening, both the people that are here and who are watching later. I hope you enjoyed the first live stream of Book 1 of Thousand Autumns, and I hope you join us for the next live stream this Thursday. We'll just watch it after Thursday and be back next Tuesday. Good night and have a nice evening. Yeah, you're welcome. I hope you come enjoy, and I'll see you next Tuesday. But yes, everyone have a great rest of your evening and a good day tomorrow. Bye.